Chapter 33-26. A Beautiful Romance. The heaven-traversing commander was one of the few engravement realm elites, but he was covered in wounds and looked incredibly pathetic. What was going on? Who in the world could injure him and injure him to such an extent? Tang Yu and the other descendants of the heaven-traversing commander cried out in shock. He was the pillar of the Tang family. Once he fell, the Tang family's glory would be gone as well. Minister Tang, what powerful enemy did you encounter? Chen Fengyan asked gently. Your Majesty, it was a demonic rat, the heaven-traversing commander said with a bow. The people in the world only knew that the Saint Emperor was the strongest elite, but powerful people like them knew that they were worlds apart from the Saint Emperor. In front of Chen Fengyan, he only wanted to worship him. Chen Fengyan hummed in acknowledgement. Tell me the details. The heaven-traversing commander nodded and said, I was ordered to clear out the demonic beast that destroyed the village. 2 days ago, I finally encountered it, but when I led my troops to fight against it, I suffered heavy losses. He had a sorrowful expression. The 3,000 elite troops I led were all killed. To report the demonic rat's strength to your Majesty, I escaped. Please punish me, your Majesty. Chen Fengyan's expression was slightly dark. 3,000 elite troops had been killed, and his heart ached. When they heard the heaven-traversing commander's words, everyone was shocked. The one that defeated the heaven-traversing commander was a demonic beast. What demonic beast was so daring that it dared to commit murder in Xianbei country? But it was so powerful. That was the heaven-traversing commander. Minister Tang, you don't have to blame yourself. You're not in the wrong, Chen Fengyan said and looked to the west. Also, we'll be able to take revenge soon. What? The heaven-traversing commander could not help but turn his head to look. He saw a black shadow moving through the sky. It was a huge rat that was about the size of a normal person. It flew over like a ray of light, and it did not rise or fall at all. Fly, fly. A demonic rat that could fly. He did not see that it had wings, so why could it fly? This was because its realm had reached an indescribable level, and it could fly with its physical body. JJJ. The mouse let out a strange laugh. So, the so-called emperor is here. Ling Han's heart trembled. This was indeed the demonic rat that had escaped from the formation. Compared to that day, it was unknown how many times stronger it was. After escaping from its weakened state, it was so powerful that it made people despair. Even an enlightening realm cultivator has such strength? How dare you? Senior Tutor Hong and Yang Bai immediately shouted. Two insignificant people who are only in the engravement realm dare to be so impudent in front of Lord Rat, the rat said coldly. What heaven-traversing commander? You really know how to boast shamelessly. You were slapped to the ground by Lord Rat's claw. If it wasn't for the fact that I wanted to use him as a guide to get rid of all of you, do you really think that trash like you can escape from Lord Rat's hands? Hearing this, everyone felt a chill down their spines. This demonic rat was clearly targeting the sacred emperor. What kind of confidence was this? It didn't even place the sacred emperor in its eyes. But if what it said was true, then even the heaven-traversing commander was not its match. Just how powerful was this rat? It might really be able to fight against the sacred emperor. Senior Tutor Hong and Yang Bai did not reveal any expressions of fear because Chen Fengyan was standing behind them. In everyone's hearts, there was a belief that as long as their sacred emperor was present, he could suppress everything. You've seen His Majesty, why aren't you bowing? Senior Tutor Hong said coldly. You're just a child in the enlightening realm. Are you worthy of Lord Rat bowing? The demonic rat laughed loudly, its face full of disdain. How dare you? Senior Tutor Hong charged over, his blood boiling. He knew that his strength was definitely not as good as the demonic rat, so he had to use his full strength. Not only that, but he also took out a sword. Light patterns flickered, and sword chi surged. Sigh, this planet has really declined. It was so powerful in the past. What a pity, what a pity. The rat clicked its tongue as it casually waved its front claw. There was no flash of light, but Senior Tutor Hong was sent flying. Sigh, this world has been suppressed too much. So many days have passed, and Lord Rat's strength has not even recovered 1/10,000th. Everyone's mouths were wide open, and they were completely speechless. Senior Tutor Hong was an engravement realm expert, but he was actually not a match for the rat. What was even more shocking was that the rat hadn't even used his full strength. Heavens, just how terrifying was this rat at its strongest state? For the first time, everyone had doubts in their hearts. Could the Sacred Emperor defeat this rat? It wasn't that the Sacred Emperor wasn't strong enough, but that the demonic rat was too terrifying. Do you also want to be sent flying by Lord Rat? The demonic rat looked at Yang Bai and grinned, revealing 2 large incisors. Yang Bai snorted, but he didn't retreat even half a step. Hee, Lord Rat's ears have grown tired of hearing these days. What invincible Sacred Emperor? What peerless within the Sacred Emperor universe? Lord Rat will show you today that even the so-called Sacred Emperor can only crawl beneath Lord Rat's feet. The demonic rat was extremely arrogant. It released its own aura, and it was like a raging wave that rushed in all directions. This aura was incomparably terrifying, and even Yang Bai's body trembled, as if a gust of wind could blow him over. If even someone as strong as Yang Bai was like this, then there was no need to mention the others. Everyone in the plaza knelt on the ground. It had to be known that these people were all pillars of Xianbei State, but they were unable to withstand a single aura from the demonic rat. What did this mean? A single demonic rat could sweep through Xianbei State. Ling Han was also unable to stand. This pressure was too terrifying, but how could he possibly kneel to a rat demon? His body fell backwards and he sat on the ground. Just as Yang Bai was unable to endure any longer and his spine was about to bend, a hand reached out from behind and pressed down on his shoulder. Instantly, a wave of energy circulated, allowing him to once again straighten his back. "Your Majesty!" Yang Bai was so moved that he was about to cry. Chen Fengyan nodded. "Yang Bai, go to the side and rest." "Yes, Your Majesty," Yang Bai replied respectfully. He naturally knew that he was completely no match for this rat demon. He couldn't even match its aura, and if he tried to help, he would only be dragging Chen Fengyan down. "Huh!" The rat demon revealed a look of surprise and stared at Chen Fengyan. "How can a mere enlightened state rival Lord Rat's aura? Unless you're not at the enlightened state. This is my land, and you've harmed my people. Today I will make you pay with your blood," Chen Fengyan said indifferently, as if he wasn't facing an indescribably powerful great demon, but an extremely ordinary demon beast. "Ah, shameless boasting, truly shameless boasting." The rat demon laughed loudly. Chen Fengyan leapt up, his speed indescribable, and in an instant he appeared in front of the rat demon, as if he had been standing there all along. Bang! Chen Fengyan's fist blasted out, and the rat demon was sent flying. One punch done. Fuck! Chapter 33-28. He'd killed it without any hesitation. This demon rat's strength completely crushed the 4 marshals. Although he didn't know what the life core realm was, it was definitely above the enlightenment realm. Chen Fengyan hadn't even considered the fact that such an expert had willingly submitted to him. It had to be said that this heavenly emperor was truly magnanimous. Killing my people? Who cares how strong you are? This was a kind of attitude. The Black North nation couldn't be offended, and the people couldn't be touched. Otherwise, a debt of blood would be paid in blood. Quite a few people were so moved that they started crying. To have such a heavenly emperor, what more could they ask for? "Your Majesty!" Heavenly Emperor! Spontaneously, at least 90% of the people knelt down and prostrated themselves before this heavenly emperor. Chen Fengyan raised his hand, motioning for the crowd to rise. "Ling Han, come with me." Ling Han nodded, and similarly gave this Saint Emperor a thumbs up in his mind. Previously, when he saw the pathetic performance of Chen Xingjie and the others, he had also looked down on Chen Fengyan slightly. But now, he understood that the dragon indeed had 9 sons, and each one was different. He leaped forward and followed behind Chen Fengyan. Chen Fengyan didn't bring him to the palace. Instead, he led him into the mountains, to a secluded area. "Those improved secret power pills and energy recovery pills were all you're doing?" Chen Fengyan didn't mention teaching Ling Han martial techniques, but instead asked about something completely unrelated. Ling Han's heart skipped a beat, but then he remembered that Chen Fengyan was the ruler of the Black North Nation. Some things could be hidden from others, but how could they be hidden from him? Besides, this wasn't a bad thing. Ling Han nodded. I do have some accomplishments in the Tao of Alchemy. Not just the Tao of Alchemy, right? Chen Fengyan smiled and pointed at Ling Han. Ling Han chuckled. He knew that he couldn't hide the Heavenly Emperor's knowledge of the Tao of Alchemy, so he readily admitted it. Very good, very good. Chen Fengyan smiled. If it's just cultivation talent, then you can only reap the benefits yourself. But to improve the Tao of Alchemy is a great contribution. Thank you, Saint Emperor. Ling Han cupped his hands in greeting. This Saint Emperor's strength was unfathomable. In this world where strength reigned supreme, he was indeed worthy of his respect. Of course, respect did not mean awe. He would never fear anyone. Chen Fengyan took 2 steps forward and said, Originally, I only planned to teach you one martial skill. However, since you have contributed so much, if I were to only teach you one martial skill, it would seem that this emperor is too petty. Ling Han's skin was extremely thick as he said, Then your majesty can reward me with some treasured fruits. It would be best if they are of the life attribute. Chen Fengyan glanced at him and couldn't help but laugh. You really aren't polite at all. Your majesty is magnanimous and cares for the world. I'm just stating my needs truthfully, Ling Han said. Chen Fengyan shook his head. It's best to walk the path of cultivation on your own. Don't always think of shortcuts. Besides, sometimes experiencing some hardships and setbacks is also beneficial. If he didn't want to give it to him, then so be it. Why did he have to lecture him? Ling Han ridiculed in his heart, but of course he wouldn't say it out loud. Chen Fengyan thought about it and said, All right, this emperor will tell you about the path of cultivation. Ah, you're not teaching me any martial skills? Ling Han was startled at first, but he was not disappointed. That was because judging from Chen Fengyan's tone, only imparting a single martial arts technique was stingy. Then the path of cultivation that he spoke of should be much more valuable than a single martial arts technique. Please enlighten me, Your Majesty, he said respectfully. Chen Fengyan paced back and forth with his hands behind his back. Let's talk about the martial skill first. He casually made a grabbing motion, and a raging flame immediately rose from his hand. With another press, the flames disappeared and were replaced by ice. With another flip, his entire hand had turned into metal. Ling Han was astonished. In this entire process, he had not discovered that Chen Fengyan had used any kind of martial arts technique. Or, in other words, Chen Fengyan had only used one kind of martial arts technique all along, so why had he drawn out flames, frost, and even turned his hand into metal? Do you want to know why? Chen Fengyan smiled. Ling Han nodded and said, Yes. Chen Fengyan looked at the sky and said leisurely, In this world, other than secret power, there are other powers. These powers are of a higher level, and you can't obtain them through cultivation. For example, this flame, this ice, and so on. Then how do I use it? Ling Han asked. He had seen Hong Tianliang use some kind of mysterious black energy. In terms of power alone, this energy wasn't strong, but in terms of destructive power, this energy was terrifying. Similarly, there were artifacts. They didn't rely on power to win, but the energy they shot out had extremely terrifying destructive power, and thus achieved the effect of tearing apart defenses. Telekinesis, Chen Fengyan said. This kind of high-level energy can only be drawn by telekinesis. Ling Han was stunned. So this energy was drawn by telekinesis. That artifact. The formation patterns on artifacts could also have a similar effect. Not bad, the Tao of formations required spiritual energy, and the formation patterns on artifacts and the Tao of formations were of the same origin. You can refine pills and set up formations, which means that you have already cultivated spiritual energy and have the foundation to use this kind of energy. Chen Fengyan continued. However, if you want to use this kind of energy, you need to master the corresponding diagram. Flame energy corresponds to flame spirit map. Frost energy corresponds to frost spirit map. As far as I know, there are a total of 36 spirit maps. However, The number of high-level energy should be far more than that. You have improved the pill formula and have contributed to the world. I will pass you 2 spirit maps. Which 2 do you want? He briefed Ling Han a little. Among the high-level energy, there were energies similar to the 5 elements, lightning energy and pure destructive energy. The amount of energy exceeded the energy system in the Yuan world. Of course, Ling Han wanted to master all the energy, but he knew that it was unrealistic. After thinking for a while, he said, I want to learn the metal spirit map and the stone spirit map. Chen Fengyan revealed a look of approval and said, the metal energy is invincible, while the stone energy is more inclined towards defense. 1 for offense, 1 for defense. You have made the right choice. Letting Ling Han choose the spirit map was actually a kind of test. Chen Fengyan shook his right hand, and 2 jade plates appeared in his hand. No one saw where he took them out from. A spatial artifact, right? Yes, he was a dignified Saint Emperor, so it was normal for him to have a spatial artifact. Stick the jade plate on your forehead and use your psychic power to activate it, Chen Fengyan said as he handed the jade plate over. He thought that he was giving the jade plate to him, but looking at Chen Fengyan's expression, it was obvious that he was going to take it back. All right. Ling Han stuck the jade plate on his forehead and used his psychic power to touch it. Instantly, countless symbols appeared in his mind. He clearly didn't recognize any of them, but he seemed to be able to understand them. This was a method of communication, and the object of communication was precisely the high-level energy. However, this kind of energy couldn't be touched by the physical body, so it had to be communicated with psychic power. Instantly, countless insights appeared in Ling Han's mind. Chapter 33-29. Ling Han greedily absorbed this knowledge, turning it into his own. Oh, so that's how it is. Oh, so that's how it is. His eyes were closed, but his eyebrows were constantly moving. After a few hours, he suddenly opened his eyes. How much did you comprehend? Chen Fengyan asked. Ling Han was somewhat moved. This was the current Saint Emperor, and his strength was even more earth-shattering. But now, he was willing to wait here in order to give him pointers. How many people could have this kind of grace? There should be some progress. He nodded and stretched out his hand. In his sea of consciousness, he visualized the metal spirit diagram. His telekinesis circulated at high speed, spreading out in the surrounding area. Suddenly, he found that there were countless starlight particles all around him, all emitting a golden luster. However, some of the particles emitted an incomparably bright golden light, while others were very dim. These corresponded to the metal energy. The bright energy was strong, while the dim energy was weak. Moreover, these particles were not stationary, but were moving at high speed. Collect in his sea of consciousness, his telekinesis formed the shape of the spirit diagram. Immediately, the particles all flew over like moths to a flame. Ling Han stretched out his right hand, and these particles all twined around his hand. After about a minute's time, the number of these particles had reached a sufficient level, and he no longer needed to use his mental power to sense them. They could be seen with the naked eye, forming a golden glow. Use your telekinesis as the center to materialize the energy. Chen Fengyan's voice sounded. Ling Han did as he was told, and the layer of golden light immediately materialized, as if he was wearing a glove on his fist. However, this glove looked a little awkward. Some parts were especially bright, while others were slightly dimmer. Ling Han knew that this was because he had gathered all the particles he had extracted. Therefore, some places with rich energy would be brighter, while some places with sparse energy would be much dimmer. The consequence of this was that the destructive power of the energy would be reduced. He sighed. What a failure. Chen Fengyan, however, revealed a look of surprise. This is your first time communicating with telekinesis, and you can actually do this? In his opinion, it was already good enough that Ling Han could sense the energy particles in such a short period of time, but Ling Han had condensed them and turned them into a substance. He had succeeded on his first try. Although the energy was still very heterogeneous and the time taken was a little too long, judging by the standards of the first try, this had even exceeded the level of perfection. Ling Han was also taken aback. His performance was actually considered good? I have a whole new level of respect for you. It seems that not only is your talent in alchemy astonishing, your talent in martial art might be even more outstanding, Chen Fengyan said. Don't praise people like that, you'll blush, even though it's the truth, Ling Han thought shamelessly. You can take your time to learn it. If you're in a real battle, you can't spend a minute or more gathering high-level energy, Chen Fengyan said. Ling Han nodded. Unless he could extract the high-level energy right from the start, it would be extremely dangerous if he had to spend a long time in a battle to circulate it. Not to mention winning, he might even be in danger. Now that the world has just recovered, all kinds of energy are still relatively scarce. Even the cultivation of telekinesis is relatively difficult, but you must not underestimate it. The great use of telekinesis is far beyond your imagination, Chen Fengyan said seriously. Ling Han naturally knew that his biggest trump card now was the flying sword attack driven by telekinesis. Yes. Ling Han nodded. In addition, spirit maps are the same as cultivation methods and martial skills. There are differences in level. These spirit maps that I have are not very high level, so if you have the chance to obtain high-level spirit maps in the future, don't miss it, Chen Fengyan said. Ling Han nodded again. When he was visualizing the spirit map just now, he was thinking that if the spirit map could be a little more complicated, wouldn't he be able to extract more high-level energy at that time? Let's put this aside for now. You just need to practice well. There are many mysteries about high-level energy, enough for you to ponder for a long time, Chen Fengyan said. He paused, then continued, Now, I will talk to you about cultivation. Every realm has a limit. For example, the illuminating pulse realm can cultivate up to 20 meridians. Ling Han nodded. This limit didn't seem hard to reach. At least 10% of the people in the Emperor Capital Academy had achieved this. Chen Fengyan looked at him and smiled. You didn't just open 20 meridians, right? The smaller meridians in your body should have been opened as well. Otherwise, you wouldn't be able to possess such shocking power. As expected of a Saint Emperor, such eyesight. Ling Han nodded and said, Your Majesty is wise. He also flattered him. Chen Fengyan naturally didn't mind and continued, For the illuminating pulse realm, 5 transformations is the limit. But the limit is 6 transformations. After 6 transformations, one will return to their original state. Ling Han thought about it and said, Then is there 7 transformations? 20 meridians was already the limit, but it could open up the smaller meridians and push the limit to another level. Is there any in the blood transformation realm? Chen Fengyan couldn't help but laugh. Do you think that many people reach the limit in the illuminating pulse realm and the blood transformation realm are the same? He shook his head. The higher the realm, the harder it is to break through the limit. I can say with certainty that less than 1% of those who cultivate to 20 meridians in the illuminating pulse realm can reach 6 transformations. One had to know that there weren't many who could cultivate to 20 meridians in the illuminating pulse realm, and only 1% could reach 6 transformations. This showed how difficult it was. Above the blood transformation realm is the ultimate bone realm. Shatter your bones over and over again, and then reforge them. After 5 shatters, that is the limit. Chen Fengyan continued, but some people can shatter 6 or even 7. The more they reforge their bones, the stronger their bones are. At the ultimate bone realm, this doesn't seem to have much of an advantage. But as your realm increases, you will realize that the toughness of the godly bones has great significance. Above the ultimate bone realm is the engravement realm. It is to carve out patterns on the organs in the body to strengthen them. The heart, liver, spleen, lungs, and kidneys are called the 5 palaces. This is also the limit of the engravement realm. But there are more than 5 organs in your body. Tell me, what is your limit? Ling Han gritted his teeth. It was already very difficult to cultivate to a high realm, and it was even more difficult to cultivate to the limit of each realm. Don't be in a hurry to break through. You must cultivate to the point where there is no more room for improvement before you try, Chen Fengyan said solemnly. Yes, Ling Han said respectfully. He could naturally tell if other people's advice was sincere or not. Chen Fengyan seemed to have high hopes for him. Otherwise, he wouldn't have given him such detailed explanations. With the status of this Saint Emperor, this was a great recognition. Chapter 33:30. Don't think that everything is peaceful now. In the future, there will be many more like the demonic rats, and there will be many more powerful ones. Chen Fengyan sighed, I am only one person and I can't split myself. So I need you and people like you to grow up quickly, share my worries, and save the people. Ling Han nodded and said seriously, I will not disappoint your majesty. He would not tolerate existences like the demonic rats treating humans as food. Chen Fengyan smiled, go and cultivate well. Don't worry about anything else. If you have any difficulties, I will help you. This was equivalent to giving Ling Han a treasured sword that was above him. Thank you, your majesty. Ling Han bowed. Although Chen Fengyan said so, he would not go to this Saint Emperor for every little thing. How could he be so free? So, unless there was really a big problem. Work hard. Chen Fengyan patted Ling Han's shoulder, then leaped and flew away. Ling Han was curious. What was the cultivation of this Saint Emperor? Compared to Brother Monkey, who was stronger? Brother Monkey should not be weak. Ling Han murmured as he walked back. Although Chen Fengyan did not teach him any martial skills, he opened a new door for him, which was more useful than teaching him 8 or 10 top martial skills. Back at Emperor Capital Academy, he temporarily put aside Array Dao and Alchemy Dao, and focused on cultivating the spirit map. To extract high-level energy, he had to visualize the spirit map and construct it with his mind power. This was a very complicated process. Visualizing the spirit map tested one's comprehension ability. Because the spirit map was extremely complicated, any mistake would cause the visualization to fail, and there would be no way to talk about the next step. If one's mind power was not strong enough, they would not be able to successfully visualize it. The first step could exclude at least 90% of the current martial artists. Instead, those alchemy masters and array masters could successfully visualize it if they were willing to spend some time. After the visualization, it depended on the strength of the mind power. The stronger the mind power, the more energy particles could be absorbed. What Ling Han needed to do was to increase the speed of visualizing the spirit map and integrate it into actual combat. This process had to be completed within a few seconds or even a second. He had made great progress. After only one day, he had compressed his visualization time to half a minute. However, his progress slowed down after that. 3 days later, he had compressed it to 20 seconds, and 2 days later, it was 13 seconds. After spending 13 days, Ling Han finally managed to push the time down to 7 seconds. However, it was difficult for him to progress any further. He had reached a bottleneck. He might have to wait for Ling Han's spiritual power to improve further before he could further compress the time limit. After watching the battle between Chen Fengyan and the demon rat, Ling Han's horizons had been broadened countless times. Even the 4 marshals, Senior Grand Tutor Hong, and the others were no longer people he wanted to surpass. Other than Chen Fengyan, the others were probably at the beginner stage of martial art. The only difference was that they had taken a few more steps. Now that the environment was recovering, it was a good opportunity to overtake others. I'll be myself first. After a few days of training, Ling Han's progress was obvious. The metal energy he had condensed was not as heterogeneous as before. Instead, it was integrated. He rubbed his fist gently on the stone. Without much force, the stone turned into powder when the golden light touched it. The destructive power was great. He channeled this power into his fist, and when he punched out, the metal energy also fused into it, instantly destroying most of the nearby trees. However, if he punched out like this, it would consume a lot of energy. After just a dozen punches, the metal energy was exhausted and needed to be condensed again. Not only would it take more than 2 seconds, but it would also consume a lot of his psychic power. Well, he had to use it sparingly. Ling Han had a total of 2 spirit maps. The other one could extract stone energy, which he used for defense. He materialized this layer of energy on his arm and turned it into a gray rock. When summoning Snow attacked with her sword, it could not pierce through at all. However, although this defense was strong, It consumed a lot of the gray energy and could not be maintained for long. This was actually fair. There was no power that could be consumed all the time. One for attack and one for defense, it was enough for now. Ling Han smiled in satisfaction. What he needed now was to increase his mental power. This determined the speed and intensity of his extraction of the special energy, as well as the power of his flying sword. However, without a treasure like the Wonder Cloud fruit, the increase of mental power was very slow. Only when his realm increased and his life level increased would his mental power increase greatly. Ling Han focused his energy on training again. After opening the upper limit of his realm, he could quickly increase his strength again. Young master, young master. Summoning snow ran over. Someone sent a letter. Read it. Ling Han was currently studying the disc. If he could truly decipher this formation, then he would have another trump card in his hand. To Ling Han, you have to join the Hong family gang before sunset tomorrow and hand over the gourd, Summoning Snow said. Ling Han did not even raise his head. That's all. That's all. Summoning Snow looked at the letter again and shook her head. Ignore it, Ling Han said. He did not even leave his name to scare him. Of course, even if he left his name, Ling Han would not take it to heart. Summoning Snow nodded and threw the letter into the trash can. The day passed. Summoning Snow was still a little worried. She counted the time. It was morning, noon, afternoon. Finally, the sun gradually set and she could no longer see it. Phew, fortunately, nothing happened. Who was playing a prank? She was just about to close the door when she saw a figure appear at the end of the street. He was slowly walking towards her. Although she was not sure, Summoning Snow had a feeling that this person was coming for her young master. She instantly felt as if she was facing a formidable enemy. One hand was still holding onto the fat pig, and the other was holding onto the sword. She was now at the blood-changing realm and could help her young master solve his problems. This was a young man in green who looked to be at most 25 or 26 years old. There was a sword at his waist and a jade-like hairband on his head. His long hair was tucked in, and his clothes fluttered gently in the breeze, making him look incomparably elegant. His face was like jade and extremely handsome. Who knew how many women were mesmerized by him on the way here? Summoning Snow looked as if she was looking at an enemy and was extremely nervous. It's senior brother Fong Ping Fong. He left the school a long time ago. Why is he back today? I heard that he has been following that person everywhere to gain experience. His cultivation is probably at 3 bones now. 3 bones is following that monster. How can he only have 3 bones? But isn't that person only 3 bones? That was a matter from a few years ago. I think that monster might have already stepped into the engravement realm. Everyone was discussing in low voices. This green-clothed Fong Zipping was clearly very famous. Chapter 33-32. A beautiful romance. Who would have thought that after throwing a punch, a spear would appear on his fist? This wasn't some kind of high-level energy. Ling Han could clearly see that this spear had not appeared out of thin air, but had grown out of his fist. You freak. Ling Han used the shuttle steps, and his figure was like lightning, narrowly dodging this attack. Peng, the spear missed, but it easily pierced through the wall behind Ling Han. Is it strange? Fong Ping smiled and raised his left hand, the spear actually shrinking back into his hand. The world only knows that the ultimate bone realm is to temper the bones of a god, but they don't know that the shed bone can be used for other purposes. Ling Han couldn't help but feel disgusted. This is formed from bone shedding? That's right. Because it was shed from my own body, it can naturally merge perfectly with my own body. Fong Zipping said proudly. My own body is the strongest weapon. Ling Han also believed in his own strength, and that external forces could only be borrowed or supplemented. But to use something that had fallen from his body as a weapon, and even had to be stored back into his body, this was something he couldn't accept. Fortunately, the shed bone shedding is not shit, or else. Ling Han didn't continue speaking, and couldn't help but shiver. Although he didn't finish speaking, everyone couldn't help but imagine that indescribable scene, and they all shivered. Fong Zipping was furious, This brat actually dared to defame him? Ignorant. His figure shot out. How many people in Xianbei country could use bone shedding? This was something that Hong Tianbu had discovered in an ancient book after entering an ancient ruin. What a shallow and ignorant pig. I'll let you have a taste of my power. Fong zipping chased after Ling Han, his bone spear shooting out like a spear. Xiu xiu xiu. The tip of the spear flashed with a fiery red light, and it was still wrapped with high-level energy. Ling Han dodged again and again. He still didn't know the power of the bone spear and didn't dare to take it head-on. Both of them were extremely fast, traveling at twice the speed of sound. It was difficult for either of them to stop the other, and they had to fight head-on. On the surface, it looked like Fong Fongping had the upper hand. There was no way around it. With 3 bones and above, could he not suppress someone at the blood transformation realm? On the contrary, it was inconceivable that Ling Han could withstand so many blows. However, Ling Han was preparing for a counterattack. In addition to activating high-level energy, his telekinesis could also drive the flying sword to launch a terrifying attack. Ling Han is really amazing. No wonder he could get first place in this big hunting match. He can actually fight with someone at the extreme bone realm for so long. Just what level is Fong Fongping at in the extreme bone realm? Why does it feel like he can suppress me with just his aura? I told you, he definitely has more than 3 bones. Damn it, he's already graduated, and is even at the paramount bone realm. How can he still strut around in the academy? Doesn't anyone care? On one side, everyone was shocked at Ling Han's strength. On the other side, they felt a common hatred for a common enemy. If anyone could just charge into the academy and beat whoever they wanted, who would feel safe? Is it because he's that person's subordinate? Someone asked bitterly. Of course, not everyone could be so reckless, but Fong Fongping was Hong Tianbu's subordinate. Right now, he was representing Hong Tianbu. If anyone dared to block him, that would be equivalent to becoming Hong Tianbu's enemy. Hong Tianbu, that heaven-suppressing monster. Thinking of Hong Tianbu, everyone fell silent. In this world, Hong Tianbu was definitely one of those people who held special authority. A cold rebuke rang out. It was a woman's voice, but it was clearly very young. Fong Fongping didn't care. He already had a 5 bones cultivation, and the only people who could suppress him were the 4 great commanders, Grand Tutor Hong, and a few other important figures. Who else in the entire academy would be worthy of his attention? Even if this matter was exposed, Hong Tianbu could easily settle it. Furthermore, the Hong family still had a grand tutor. He continued to attack. First, he wanted to subdue Ling Han, and second, he wanted to seize Ling Han's spirit diagram. What he didn't know was that Ling Han's higher-level control over energy was indeed partly due to the spirit diagram, but it was also because Ling Han's mental strength was above his. So even if he obtained Ling Han's spirit diagram, his improvement would be limited. Shua, a whip lashed out, and with a snap, it wrapped around the bone spear. Fong Fongping pulled with force, but found that he couldn't move it. Only then did he reveal a trace of seriousness, and he turned his head to look at the whip. 10 feet away from him stood a young girl who was no more than 14 or 15 years old. Her face was filled with anger. Gu Chuyue. Fong Fongping's eyes narrowed. Scram. Gu Chuyue shook the whip, and the whip instantly retreated like a snake. Fong Fongping slowly revealed a smile, and said, "The glorious era that belonged to you has already ended. If you dare to make an enemy of Master, you will only be crushed into dregs." "Are you going to scram or not?" Gu Chuyue said coldly. Fong Fongping didn't dare to be careless. Although the girl in front of him looked like a young girl, she was almost 40 years old. When she was in her 20s, she was also a legend in the Imperial Capital Academy, leaving behind a legend of invincibility. However, after she graduated, the legend slowly dissipated, and with the appearance of Hong Tianbu, she was also forgotten by the majority. But this couldn't hide her strength. After so many years, this girl should have reached 5 bones by now. No fear. Fong Fongping revealed a proud expression, because he also had 5 bones, and had learned many secret techniques from Hong Tianbu. He was definitely not someone that Gu Chuyue, who was stuck in the academy, could compare to. Gu Qiuyue, don't meddle in other people's business. Otherwise, Master doesn't even need to make a move, I will make you look good. He said. Good. Gu Qiuyue touched her face. I really look good, I don't need you to make me look good. Her stubbornness was acting up again. Scram. Fong Fongping rushed over and punched out. The bone spear transformed into a bolt of white lightning, piercing towards Gu Qiuyue. But Gu Qiuyue lashed out, whip after images appearing one after another. The two of them fought fiercely, and it looked like it would be difficult to determine the victor in a short period of time. Ling Han swept his gaze around and saw Gu Qiuling in the crowd. He couldn't help but smile at her. For Gu Qiuyue to rush over so quickly, she must have been notified by him. Gu Qiuling revealed a simple and honest smile. This expression was definitely carved from the same mold as Gu Qiuyue. Gu Qiuyue definitely had a fiery temper. After fighting, she directly boiled her blood and qi, pushing her battle strength to the limit. Fong Fongping had no choice but to also boil his blood and qi. Otherwise, with his strength being 2 or 3 times weaker, it would be very difficult for him to last for more than 10 minutes. Ling Han could clearly see that Gu Qiuyue didn't have a high level of control over energy, so she was at a disadvantage in this aspect. But in terms of strength, this ant who looked like a young girl had the absolute advantage. It was still unknown who would emerge victorious. Chapter 33-33. Gu Qiuyue and Fong Ziping were both in the ultimate bone realm and could reach twice the speed of sound. Illuminating pulse realm practitioners could not even see their figures clearly, and even blood transformation realm practitioners could barely see them. They could only see the golden whip and the white bone spear constantly clashing. But after 7 minutes, the outcome of the battle was decided. Scram! With a shout from Gu Qiuyue, Fong Ziping was sent flying. Pung! Fong Ziping landed heavily on the ground. He quickly got up, only to see that the white bone spear had been broken in the middle, and the tip had been sent flying to God knows where. He glared fiercely at Gu Qiuyue, but did not attack again. The two of them had used almost all their techniques, and he had indeed been at a disadvantage. You dare to obstruct my lord's matters. This matter will not end here, Fong Ziping said coldly. Remember, those who go against my lord will not have a good ending. The only result is being crushed. Scram! Gu Qiuyue's whip replied to him. Fong Ziping leaped and quickly retreated. Even if he could not beat him, he could still hide. Wait. Ling Han opened his mouth. Fong Ziping was obviously going to run. Fong Ziping stopped and turned to look at Ling Han. Could it be that this brat had changed his mind? Ling Han pointed to the room and said, Don't say that I did not give you a chance. Immediately apologize to my servant girl and compensate for your losses. Otherwise, when we meet again, I will take your life. Haha. Fong Ziping laughed loudly. Was there anything more laughable than this? A blood transformation realm practitioner actually dared to threaten a ultimate bone realm practitioner? But Ling Han's expression did not change, and he just looked at him coldly. Fong Ziping could not continue laughing. He could almost see the determination in Ling Han's cold expression. He would definitely do what he said. He would not care if others had such determination, but Ling Han was different. This was a genius who could fight with the ultimate bone realm practitioner at the blood transformation realm. Although he could not compare to Hong Tianbu, he could still be called a monster. He withdrew his smile and revealed a trace of killing intent. Since that was the case, he would first get rid of Ling Han. I'll remember you, he said, and then turned to leave. With a burst of speed that was twice the speed of sound, he quickly disappeared. Ling Han stared at Fong Fongping's back until he disappeared. He gradually retracted the killing intent in his heart. He was not threatening Fong Jiaping just now, he was speaking from the bottom of his heart. Since you don't cherish this opportunity, don't regret being killed by him in the future. He cupped his hands towards Gu Qiuyue and said, Thank you. No need. Gu Qiuyue shook her head. As a teacher of the academy, it is my duty to protect the students. All right, I'll find you another place to stay later. She waved her hand, leaped up, and quickly disappeared. Ling Han returned to the destroyed house and carried Huanxue out. He first went to Huanxue's house and settled her down. Fortunately, The little maid was only knocked unconscious and her injuries were not serious. He sat down on the side, a strong sense of urgency rising in his heart. From the moment he went against Hong Tianliang, he knew that there would be a day when he would have a direct conflict with Hong Tianbu. But he did not expect that he would stand against Hong Tianbu so quickly. Ling Han was not afraid, but this heaven-suppressing monster had at least 5 bones cultivation. If they really fought, he would definitely not be his opponent. That was because Hong Tianbu was also a genius that could fight above his level, and his battle strength was comparable to the engravement realm. Ling Han did not think that he could fight against an engravement realm, at least not in the blood transformation realm. He had to quickly increase his cultivation. Even if he did not defeat Hong Tianbu, he had to at least deal with Fang Jiaping. However, cultivation had to be done step by step. Without special opportunities, how could he improve by leaps and bounds? If some ancient site opens and I get some treasures, then the problem will be solved. He hoped that Xianyuan Dinghua would come over and have some opportunity to go to the ancient site. However, he was disappointed. Xianyuan Dinghua seemed to have disappeared. After a few days, Ling Han found out that Xianyuan Dinghua and the others had already begun to break through to the extreme bone realm. Previously, Ling Han and Hong Tianliang's performance at the hunting meet was too shocking, and it seriously stimulated these few people. Therefore, they could no longer hold back and began to break through. Ling Han thought for a while. Since he could not go to the ancient site, then he would change direction. He had only obtained 2 ingredients for the soul separation pill's detoxification formula. He would look for the remaining 6. He was not lacking money at all. Anything that could be solved with money was not a problem. After putting up a trade on the platform, Ling Han quickly received news that someone had 1,000 leaves and wanted to trade with him. However, the other party raised the price by double. It was true that Ling Han had a lot of money, but he was not a fool. He negotiated with the other party and finally reached a deal at 5 million. This time, Ling Han did not encounter a scammer and successfully completed the trade. A few days later, he obtained a clue for the 4th ingredient. The other party asked for 7 million. After bargaining for a long time, the other party clenched his teeth and refused to budge. Ling Han did not plan to waste any time and bought it. Half solved. Ling Han's luck attribute seemed to have come into play. Very soon, he obtained a clue for the 5th ingredient, and he also completed a breakthrough. He had finally cracked the secret of the round disc. Beep beep beep. A message came from the optical computer, but Ling Han did not have time to pay attention to it. He came to the small forest and threw the round disc on the ground. Then he used his psychic power to guide it. There was no change, but Ling Han could see clearly that the array was complete. He caught a wild boar and threw it into the area covered by the array. The wild boar did not sense anything. Once it was free from the suppression, it immediately wanted to run. It had been completely frightened by Ling Han's strength. But just as its feet moved, Xiao, an ice arrow attacked. It reached at least 6 times the speed of sound, so how could the wild boar dodge it? Once the arrow hit, it immediately turned into a block of ice. The high-level energy mobilized is at least 10 times more than mine, Ling Han muttered. He could already use his psychic power to communicate with high-level energy, so he could naturally measure the speed of the array. He could not help but rejoice that those ruffians had not been able to fully activate the array's power. Otherwise, he would have been very passive. This should have the power of the engravement realm. But I have the purple pendant that can dissolve part of the array's power, and I also have the Qi nurturing gourd. At most, I will be in a bit of a sorry state. Ling Han closed the array and held the round disc in his hand. Since the array could also have the effect of communicating with high-level energy, then was it itself a kind of spirit map? Ling Han studied the array pattern, wanting to use it for himself. But after half a day, he could not help but shake his head. Humans and arrays were different, and there was no possibility of using it as a reference. He returned to his room and had long since changed to a new one. Then, he turned on the optical computer and saw that someone had sent him a message. Looking at it, Ling Han could not help but smile. Someone had contacted him again, and there was the 5th material he needed, the white scorching stone. He was just about to send the message when he suddenly felt a wave of discomfort and immediately turned around. A figure slid in through the window. Seeing Ling Han turn around, that person could not help but be surprised. "Brat, your reaction is getting more and more sensitive." Chapter 33-34. Old Man Cheng, the old bastard who drugged Ling Han. The previous 2 times, this old man gave Ling Han an undefeatable pressure, but the 3rd time, Ling Han finally discovered that this old man was only as flat as a house. In a head-on confrontation, Ling Han was definitely not his match. Even if he used his flying sword, Ling Han felt that his chances of winning were extremely slim. However, if Old Man Cheng insisted on coming at this time, he would be courting death. There was no other reason. Ling Han had grasped the secret of the disc and could operate an engravement realm formation. Even an extreme bone realm cultivator wouldn't be able to withstand it. Of course, the prerequisite was that Old Man Cheng would step into the trap. Ling Han chuckled. He knew that Old Man Cheng definitely had a huge force behind him that could easily mobilize a beast tide to destroy a city. However, he now had Qin Fengyan's sword. Even the powerful demon rats couldn't withstand a single exchange, so what was this force? Moreover, this force had committed such a massacre. Qin Fengyan would definitely be furious when he found out. "You flatter me," Ling Han said indifferently. "Kid, it's time for you to make a contribution." Old Man Cheng smiled. Master is very interested in your alchemy ability, so he ordered this old man to bring you back. In the future, you will refine pills for Master. You won't be lacking in benefits. Ling Han thought about it and said, "I want the antidote for the soul-separating pill." "Kikik, as long as you do your best to work for Master, he will naturally give you the antidote." Old Man Cheng said. Ling Han shook his head. "I want it now." Old Man Cheng couldn't help but stare at Ling Han and reveal a sinister expression. "Kid, do you think that you have the qualifications to put on airs in front of this old man just because you won 1st place in the big hunting tournament? You people are deranged. In order to obtain the Blood God Crystal, you don't hesitate to feed humans to demonic beasts. I only killed a beast, but you guys targeted me and even forced me to take poison." Ling Han said indifferently, but his tone was extremely harsh. "Now, you still want me to sell my life for you?" Old Man Cheng was first shocked, then he grinned strangely. "Kid, your bones are indeed very hard. No wonder you even offended Hong Tianbu. However, today is not up to you. Since Master has spoken, this old man has to bring you back no matter what." He brazenly attacked. With his 5 bones cultivation, he believed that Ling Han wouldn't even be able to take a single move. With his 5 bones cultivation, he believed that Ling Han wouldn't be able to take even one move and wouldn't alarm. Old Man Cheng was startled. He had not thought that a blood transformation tier cultivator could actually display such high speed. However, he did not hesitate and immediately chased after Ling Han. He was very sure, because Ling Han did not run towards the center of the academy, but instead rushed towards the outside of the academy. If he went out further, he would enter a dense forest, and there was also a vast mountain forest. If a battle took place there, it would be very difficult to attract attention no matter how big the commotion was. Moreover, as long as he had the chance to make a move, he could guarantee that he would be able to defeat Ling Han in a single move. Xiao, his speed was extremely fast. The 2 of them quickly entered the dense forest one after the other. "Kid, you can't escape. You'd better follow me obediently," Old Man Cheng said as he chased. "Master is going to start a big business in the future. You won't be wronged if you follow Master." "Open your sister's business. How can a deranged person talk about conquering the world?" Ling Han said coldly. Old Man Cheng felt that it was strange. This wasn't the most fatal attack, because there was a 2nd, 3rd, and even more ice arrows shooting towards Old Man Cheng. Old Man Cheng was completely unable to dodge. With his right hand frozen, it seriously affected the flow of his blood. He couldn't use any power at all. This was an attack from an engravement realm cultivator. Pooh, pew, pew, he was continuously hit by the arrows. Ice stains appeared on his body one after another. Ling Han let out a sigh of relief, a satisfied expression on his face. Shooting the first flying sword was, of course, a deliberate misdirection. The second flying sword was also a decoy. The real killing move was when Old Man Ching had used his arms to protect his front. Ling Han took the opportunity to throw out the disc, which Old Man Ching didn't notice at all. Thus, after Old Man Ching neutralized the flying sword's attack, he naturally stepped into the formation. A perfect plan. Ling Han opened his mouth and said, "Tell me who your master is." Chapter 33-36. No, he's using his position to take revenge. He wants to kill me. Yan Jun shouted. Though slandering a high-level array master was a huge crime, compared to his life, he didn't care so much. Ling Han only chuckled. Young people really can't take hardship actually finding such an excuse. The bystanders agreed wholeheartedly. Even if Ling Han looked much younger than Yan Jun, who asked him to be a high-level array master. The moment others saw him, they would automatically imagine him and lump him together with those white-browed, white-bearded old men. To them, did Ling Han have to harm a small array master like this? He had ways to make you wish you were dead. Sigh, young people nowadays were really spoiled. There was a high-level array master willing to teach him one-on-one, but he still wanted to die. Yan Jun screamed the whole way, but he was still dragged out of the headquarters. Seeing the headquarters building getting further and further away, Yan Jun naturally despaired and stopped struggling, allowing Ling Han to drag him away. Ling Han called a car, stuffed Yan Jun in, and drove out of the city. This headquarters was originally at the edge of the city, but Cheongming Mountain was in the direction of the city's Dragon Head, so they could still take a short distance. But the Dragon Head was where the palace was, so the car stopped far away. Ling Han dragged Yan Jun out of the car, went around the palace, and headed north. The curtain of night soon descended. Ling Han stopped and began to prepare something to eat. Yan Jun sat gloomily on one side. After a while, he opened his mouth and said, "Ling Han, you mustn't have any malicious thoughts towards me, because I have already turned on the optical computer and have been recording all this while. If you want to kill me, you can forget about escaping." Ling Han couldn't help but smile. You really know how to flatter yourself. Soon, the meat was done and he started eating. Yan Jun watched from the side and was shocked. "What about me?" "Do." Ling Han shook his head. "I was afraid that you would suddenly die and say that I poisoned you. So, just bear with it." "Do." Yan Jun pointed angrily at Ling Han. Ling Han furrowed his brows and said, "Don't you know the rules? You're just a lowly primary array master. How dare you yell at me?" Yan Jun was instantly speechless. If Ling Han had only relied on his great strength to drag him out, then he could naturally point at Ling Han's nose and scold him. The problem was that the other party was an advanced array master, and he had to treat him with respect. "As punishment, you won't have anything to eat today," Ling Han said coldly. "Fuck, you're abusing your position to avenge a personal grudge." Yan Jun gritted his teeth in hatred, but the AI had recorded it very clearly. He had indeed yelled at Ling Han. If 10 people saw it, it was guaranteed that none of them would stand on his side. Endure, 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 he thought to himself. As long as he could keep his life, anything was fine. Ling Han quickly finished the meat, then leaned against the tree root and dozed off. Very soon, Yan Jun became unbearably thirsty and hungry. He tossed and turned continuously, unable to fall asleep no matter what. Ling Han, Ling Han, Ling Han. He did not know how many times he cursed in his heart. Why did he have to encounter such a malefic star? Yet he did not reflect on himself at all. Back then, he was the one who took the initiative to provoke Ling Han, and he was also the one who went to hire a hitman to kill him. Now, he actually resented Ling Han. This face was really ugly to the extreme. Not knowing how long had passed either, he finally fell asleep in a daze. Ling Han struck out a gust of wind from his finger. Pa! It knocked Yan Jun unconscious, while he entered into the essence cultivating gourd. Whether or not Yan Jun would be bitten to death by wild beasts afterwards, that was not within the scope of Ling Han's consideration. Ling Han absorbed energy in the essence cultivating gourd, improving his physique in all aspects. His psychokinesis grew even stronger. Right now, it could be raised to the same height as mystic power, or even more important. Early the next morning, as if there was an alarm clock, Ling Han woke up abruptly. Coming out of the gourd, he saw that the sun was just a hair away from rising. He took a look. Yen Jun was safe and sound. TSK, why wasn't there a wild beast eating him? Ling Han sat cross-legged and started cultivating, harvesting the power of heaven and earth to nourish his body. Half an hour later, Ling Han called it a day. Then, he took out the meat and started roasting it. It was also about time. Yen Jun slowly woke up smelling the fragrance of the meat. Seeing that the sky was already bright, he could not help being surprised. How could he sleep so well? Rumble, his stomach could not help grumbling. He had not eaten all night. Now that he smelled the fragrance, he was even hungrier. He looked greedily at the meat on the fire pile, his saliva overflowing. He had an urge to rush up and snatch it. But he knew that this was asking to be humiliated. Very soon, Ling Han finished roasting the meat and began to eat on his own. Yen Jun knew that asking Ling Han for food was something impossible, so he might as well rely on himself, planning to go hunt some prey himself. Sit down. Ling Han reached out and pressed down. Yen Jun was unable to move. Ling Han. Yen Jun called out. Ling Han's face fell. Pi was a slap flying over. Taking into account that we're from the same city, this seat won't stoop to your level. But you've repeatedly called out this seat's name. You're too unruly. This slap was a solid one, making Yen Jun dizzy and disoriented. But what Yen Jun felt uncomfortable was in his heart. This guy was clearly abusing him, not giving him anything to eat, but he actually said it so confidently and matter-of-factly. The one who was being unreasonable was instead him. How could this not make him explode? But it was also his fault. Why did he insist on calling Ling Han by his name? He, still could not accept the fact that Ling Han had become an advanced array master. He would always think that back then, Ling Han was merely a country bumpkin from a remote small town. But now, he was towering above him. He could not twist his heart. Master Ling, I want to go hunting myself. He gritted his teeth and said, because of the AI's recording, he had to make himself impeccable. Ling Han shook his head. No, it's too dangerous. Since this seat brought you out, I naturally have to be responsible for your safety. Fuck, dangerous my ass. This place was close to the imperial capital, and the stronger demonic beasts would have long been exterminated. Yen Jun was going crazy again. Could it be that you want to starve me to death? Thinking of this possibility, he could not help but shiver. Along the way, in order to dispel the feeling of hunger, not only did he gnaw on the leftover bones that Ling Han ate, he even ate quite a bit of wild grass. To him, this was an enmity that he could not possibly forget for the rest of his life. But he thought it through. As long as he was still alive, it was the best revenge. Therefore, no matter what, he had to live on. Ling Han patted his shoulder and said, "Don't take it to heart. Leading the young is this seat's duty." Leading your sister. Yen Jun ridiculed in his heart, but of course, it was impossible for him to say it out loud. Skybright Mountain was not considered a dangerous place. There were few powerful demonic beasts here. Although there were also some precious medicinal herbs, because of the miasma, very few people came here. The reason was very simple. To enter this place, one had to consume the 100 transformations pill, and how expensive was the 100 transformations pill? It was possible that the medicinal herbs gathered just happened to offset the expenses of the 100 transformations pill, and one even had to pay for it. Then who would be willing to do it? But this was naturally not a problem for Ling Han. He himself knew how to refine the 100 transformations pill. Even if he did not, with his financial resources, it was also a piece of cake. Ling Han took out a pill bottle and tossed it over to Yen Jun, saying, "This is the 100 transformations pill. It can cure the miasma." Yen Jun naturally did not want to go in at all, but he also knew that it was impossible to disobey Ling Han. He could only receive the pill bottle, take out a medicinal pill, and consume it. He was not afraid that Ling Han would eat fake medicine for him, because there was a photon computer recording, and the image would be uploaded at the same time. Even if the photon computer was smashed, there would still be a backup in the imperial capital. The two of them entered the forest. This miasma had a form, and could be seen with the naked eye, rising and curling like clouds. There were no animals here, and even demonic beasts could not survive here. However, some special trees and flowers grew especially luxuriantly, reaching up to dozens of feet tall. The canopy of the trees spread out, covering the sky and covering the earth. In addition to the miasma, this place appeared even more gloomy. The sun was clearly shining brightly, but this place was dusky. Ling Han walked in the northwest direction. According to the information, the Bulan poison sprout grew in that direction next to a pool. This place was very quiet. There were no roars of beasts, no cries of insects, as if it was an absolute land of death. The 100 transformations pill also could not last for too long. After about an hour, the medicinal power was exhausted, and another pill was needed. 3 hours later, they finally arrived near that pool. This pool could not be considered small. It was oval in shape, and the longest part was about 3 feet, while the narrowest part was also more than 2 feet. The pool water was jet black, and there were even bubbles appearing from time to time. With a pop, it exploded, and a wisp of gas rose into the sky. Was this the source of the miasma? In this place, the miasma was obviously more intense, and it sped up the consumption of the 100 transformations pill. Ling Han swept his gaze around, and found the Bulan poison sprout by the side of the pool. It looked very strange, a little like a bean sprout, and its leaves were green and thick. Ling Han was very careful. After putting on gloves, he went to pick it. Because the name of the Bulan poison sprout had the word poison, it was actually full of poison. He put the Bulan poison sprout into the essence nourishing gourd and revealed a relaxed expression. Now that the 8 medicinal ingredients were complete, the soul-separating pill could not possibly trouble him anymore. Yen Jun watched from the side, and could not help but reveal a look of surprise. Why did a stalk of herbs suddenly disappear? This is called the essence nourishing gourd. It is a spatial container, and it can also strengthen spiritual energy, Ling Han explained. Spatial container. Yen Jun naturally knew what this was. According to historical records, the spatial artifacts of the previous civilization were all made by array masters. But now, there was no array master who could refine spatial artifacts, and there was no such technology at all. He was first envious, then shocked. Why did Ling Han tell him such a secret? Could it be that he wanted to silence him? Chapter 33-38. Moreover, it could also nourish and strengthen one's spiritual power. Yen Jun understood why Ling Han could surpass him and become an advanced array master. It was because of the spirit-nourishing gourd. If he could also have such a treasure, he would definitely become an advanced array master, or even higher. You're thinking too much. Ling Han chuckled and said, studying formations requires talent, and as for you, you're obviously far too lacking. This was blatant disdain. Yen Jun gritted his teeth in hatred. He swore that after returning to the capital, he would definitely spread the news that Ling Han had the spirit-nourishing gourd to the point that even a 3-year-old child would know about it. Such a treasure would be coveted by countless people. Unless Ling Han was willing to give it up, he would definitely die an inexplicable death. Are you thinking why I want to let you know such a big secret? Ling Han smiled. You're too conceited. Yen Jun said. Ling Han smiled. I'm confident, but not conceited. Pride is a very bad habit. How could I make such a big mistake? What? Yen Jun asked. Because I'm tired of playing and plan to kill you. So, even if you know some secrets, I don't care. Ling Han smiled. Yen Jun sneered. Although you're an advanced array master, I didn't make any mistakes. If you dare to kill me, don't even think about getting away. Ling Han was surprised. Who said I killed you? You clearly fell into the pool, and I couldn't save you. Are you lying through your teeth? Yen Jun waved the optical computer on his wrist. This is all recorded, and it was transmitted to the capital at the same time. Ling Han smiled and said, Why are you so confident in the network here? Yen Jun's expression changed drastically when he heard this. He tried to use the optical computer to connect to the network, but there was no response at all. The infrastructure in the area near the capital is indeed much better than that of hidden Tiger City. However, it's not so good to the extent of adding a repeater in this kind of deadland. Ling Han said leisurely. Yen Jun knew that the situation was far from good, and cold sweat dripped down from his forehead. So, don't be too confident. Ling Han patted Yen Jun's shoulder. Yen Jun shivered. He finally knew fear now. If he died here, as long as his photon computer was destroyed, no one would know the truth, and Ling Han could get away scot-free. You can't do this, he roared. Ling Han said indifferently, why can't I allow you to hire assassins to kill people, but not allow me to take revenge? What contract murder? You're talking nonsense. Yen Jun quickly shook his head. That's not very nice of you. I've openly said that I want to kill you, but you don't even have the courage to admit the truth, sighed Ling Han. No matter what, Yen Jun wouldn't admit it. This way, he would still have a sliver of a chance to survive. He said, Ling Han, you really don't misunderstand. It's not what you think. It's completely Yang Ziqing's decision. Didn't you also hear it with your own ears at Miss Feng's birthday banquet? Yang Ziqing admitted it himself. Ling Han shook his head and said with a smile, if Yang Ziqing's spirit is still alive after death, he'll probably be so angry that he'll jump out of his coffin. Ling Han, you have to believe me. Really, it's completely Yang Ziqing's business. I don't know anything at all. Yen Jun was still lying with his eyes wide open. Ling Han smiled and said, I didn't push you down either. What? Yen Jun was stunned. These words were completely brainless. But in the next instant, he found himself flying. With a bang, he fell into the water. Only then did he understand what Ling Han's words meant just now. However, he was so scared that his bile almost came out. This was a poisonous pool, and all the miasma in the entire forest was emitted from here. Even standing at the side, the consumption of the 100 transformations pill was shockingly fast, let alone falling into it. He hurriedly struggled to swim towards the shore, only to feel intense pain all over his body. This poison entered his body, causing his skin to immediately begin to rot. But when he swam to the shore, what greeted him was a foot. Pung! This merciless kick immediately kicked him back. No! Yen Jun waved his hands with all his might. This poison entering his body was not only fatal, but also incomparably painful. Ling Han was expressionless. Ever since Yen Jun had hired assassins to kill, he was no longer worthy of sympathy. Ling Han, I curse you. You'll die a horrible death. You'll be even more miserable than me. One day, you'll be taken care of. Yen Jun roared. He knew that Ling Han would never let him go, so he threw caution to the wind. At the very least, he could vent his anger by cursing him. Ling Han ignored him. He looked at the center of the pool because he discovered that there was a whirlpool there. And in the whirlpool, there was a black mass that emitted a strong aura of life. Could it be that this is the origin of all poisons? His heart skipped a beat. He could find a lot of information in the academy, and among them was an introduction to the origin of all poisons. The so-called origin of all poisons could only be produced in a poisonous place like this. This was the pinnacle of poisons. However, everything had an opposite effect when pushed to the extreme, and the origin of all poisons was the same. At the end of poison was the source of life. Thus, the origin of all poisons was an astonishingly valuable treasure for martial practitioners. The conditions for the origin of all poisons to form were extremely harsh. Not only did it need to be extremely poisonous, but it also needed a long period of time. It was like the nurturing of treasured fruits in heaven and earth. No matter how one looked at it, it needed hundreds or even thousands of years. Ling Han believed that there definitely hadn't been an origin of all poisons here not too long ago. Otherwise, someone would have come here to try their luck. His luck was off the charts. He had come to pick the Bulin poison bud, but he had coincidentally encountered the formation of the origin of all poisons. Moreover, the origin of all poisons was usually hidden. It was impossible to discover it with just a glance. After confirming this, Ling Han couldn't help but laugh. Yen Jun, I really have to thank you this time. If not for him being seized by a sudden impulse and specially bringing Yen Jun all the way here, then he would definitely have picked the Bulin poison bud and left. It would be impossible to discover that there was still a origin of all poisons hidden in the poisonous water. Yen Jun only thought that he was being sarcastic and only cared about cursing loudly. He realized that he didn't have much time left to live. Ling Han was very patient and explained the origin of all poisons to him. The moment Yen Jun heard, he was nearly angered to death. Oh, his death actually helped Ling Han achieve a great fortuitous encounter. No way. He immediately swam towards the center of the pool. He heard Ling Han say that the origin of all poisons was also the source of life. Then it would definitely be able to resolve his poison and heal his injuries. It could even let him obtain even more benefits. Ling Han shook his head. How could this origin of all poisons be easy to collect? Arg! Yen Jun let out a miserable cry. One of his hands had already touched the poison source, but it instantly made his entire arm melt. Not even a bit of bone remained. He looked at Ling Han venomously. This guy was actually still scheming against him. Gurgle, he already had no strength to toss about anymore. His entire person submerged into the water surface. After a few pools surfaced, the pool already recovered its tranquility. Chapter 3340. This was big news. Outside of Xianbei country, a powerful force had sent an emissary to the imperial capital to seek an audience with the Sage Emperor. However, the Sage Emperor was in seclusion, and the Grand Council Elder received the emissary on his behalf. So, there were other powerful forces outside of Xianbei country. This surprised the people of the imperial capital. They thought that Xianbei nation was the overlord of Sky Sea Star, and that monsters could only hide in the deep mountains and seas. They didn't expect such a force to suddenly appear. However, just what was going on with this faction, and how strong was it? Coincidentally, Shenyuan Dinghua came to see him, so Ling Han asked the son of the general. Shenyuan Dinghua had already broken through to the extreme bone realm. In fact, he could have broken through a long time ago, but he had been suppressing his cultivation level for the Shenyuan gang. However, now that a new member of the Shenyuan family was about to enter the academy, he could also retire. He chuckled and said, "You've asked the right person. Only the descendants of us, the 4 great marshals and Grand Tutor Hong, can come into contact with such secrets." "Stop showing off. Hurry up and tell me," Ling Han urged. "That power calls itself the Yu Dynasty," Shenyuan Dinghua said. "How powerful are they?" Ling Han asked again. "The envoy this time is the son of the Emperor of Yu, as well as the descendants of several generals. According to the information I've gathered, the son of the Emperor of Yu is an enlightening expert," Shenyuan Dinghua whispered, unable to conceal his shock. Before the Battle of Demon Rats, everyone believed that the current Saint Emperor was also at the Enlightening Realm, and the only one in the Xianbei Kingdom who was at the Enlightening Realm. He was at the same realm as the Saint Emperor's son, so how could he match the Emperor of Yu? However, to the vast majority of the citizens, the Sage Emperor was an existence of the Enlightenment Realm. So if the information about the Yu Kingdom's envoy were to be spread, it would be a huge blow. Moreover, they were both sons, but Chen Fengyan's descendants had yet to reach the Enlightenment Realm, while the Emperor of Yu had. Comparing them, didn't this show that the Emperor of Yu was more awesome? "Then what does Yu Chao want to do?" Ling Han asked. "They want us to surrender and become vassals of the Yu dynasty." Shenyuan Dinghua snorted. "What wishful thinking. Do you know what kind of existence the Saint Emperor is? He's so domineering and heaven-defying. How could he possibly be someone else's subject? However, His Majesty the Saint Emperor is currently in seclusion, so the Lord Grand Elder does not dare to make a rash decision. We will have to wait for His Majesty to come out of seclusion before making a decision." Ling Han nodded. This time, the emissary from the Yu dynasty did not come with good intentions. He actually wanted Xianbei country to become his vassal. He was extremely ambitious. Furthermore, they only sent a prince for such a big matter. They didn't even send a general. This showed how arrogant this Yu dynasty was. They didn't put Xianbei country in their eyes at all. Thinking about it, Xianbei country only had one enlightening state cultivator in name, but the Yu dynasty sent out a random prince who was also an enlightening state cultivator. It was obvious how powerful the Yu dynasty was, and it was reasonable for them to be so arrogant. Sigh, I wonder if a kingdom war will break out. Xinyuan Dingwa said worriedly. The Yu dynasty was extremely powerful, but the Black North country only had one invincible existence, Chen Fengyan. Once an all-out war broke out, it was highly likely that both sides would suffer great losses. Xinyuan Dingwa left. He had just broken through and urgently needed to stabilize his realm. Ling Han was the same. He was already at the peak of third transformation and could theoretically break through to fourth transformation, but he needed actual combat to solidify his foundation. Where could he fight? The Imperial Hunting Ground was a good place. There were demonic beasts at the Extreme Bone Realm, but normally people weren't allowed to enter, so this route wasn't feasible. Where else could he go? Ling Han couldn't help but sigh. Why didn't all his previous enemies, like Fang Zhongping and Qing Hu, appear now? If he fought with such experts, his realm would definitely be stabilized very quickly. He could only trouble Xinyuan Dingwa again. Actual combat? Xinyuan Dingwa thought about it. There is indeed such a place, but it's too dangerous. But Ling Han asked. Underground arenas. Xinyuan Dingwa said, according to the Empire's laws, these arenas aren't allowed to exist, so they can only be carried out secretly underground. However, this industry is very profitable. I heard that the Hong Tian Steppes has an underground arena. Ling Han found this strange. The Hong Tian Steppes also lacks money? Of course. Although Grand Tutor Hong's salary isn't small, he also has many descendants. Every one of them needs a large amount of resources to cultivate. How can they not have enough if they don't do some side business? Xinyuan Dingwa laughed. Ling Han couldn't help but laugh. Then the four marshals should be about the same, right? Hee. Xinyuan Dingwa didn't directly admit it. Every family will more or less have some hidden income. This is an open secret in the Empire. It's not just the four marshals. Even the princes are involved, especially those with the strength to fight for the throne. They have a large group of death warriors under their command. Without a large amount of money, who would follow you? Ling Han nodded. Then you make the arrangements. I'll go fight in the underground arenas. He didn't need to be polite with Xinyuan Dingwa. Not only had the pill recipes he provided allowed Xinyuan Dingwa to make a lot of money, his status in the Xinyuan family had also soared. He owed Ling Han a huge favor. All right. Xinyuan Dingwa nodded. But after thinking for a moment, he added, however, although your realm isn't high, your strength is too great. It'll be difficult to find an opponent who can match you. If it wasn't difficult, I wouldn't need to find you, right? Laughed Ling Han. Haha, just because of that, I'll definitely find someone for you, said Xinyuan Dingwa. Just 2 days after he left, he once again came to find Ling Han. He said he'd already made the arrangements. That night, Ling Han followed him out of the academy. They arrived at a seemingly ordinary bar, but after passing the inspection, they entered a secret passageway that led downwards. This place was very large. At the center was an arena that was around 30 meters long and wide. But even such a large arena only took up a fifth of the space. It was obvious just how large this place was. Currently, there was a battle going on the arena. It was extremely intense, but it was only at the Meridian Opening Realm. Ling Han only glanced at it for a moment before looking away. This underground arena was very lively. There were at least 1,000 people watching, and they didn't care that it was just a battle between Meridian Opening experts. As long as there was blood, they would scream in excitement. Those competitors have all committed serious crimes. They can all be sentenced to death, whispered Xinyuan Dingwa. Ling Han nodded. It seemed there was an army involved in this underground arena. Otherwise, how could they bring death row criminals here? Very quickly, the battle on the arena came to an end. One person had been pierced through the abdomen. It would probably be difficult for him to keep his life. Next, our Chongqing General XANC will fight against Ma Jiao, who has been in the limelight recently. A middle-aged man who looked like a host jumped into the ring and shouted at the top of his lungs, "Now, everyone can place your bets." End of chapter. Reading on mobile. Ling Han looked at Qin Jingchu. Xinyuan Dingwa was right. This person really had a cheap mouth. If not for his relationship with the Vajra general, he would probably have been hacked to death 100 times over. It was fine if Qin Jingchu didn't provoke him, but he wasn't the type to swallow his anger. Even his own father was someone Ling Han wanted to kill, let alone Qin Jingchu. Since he'd promised Niu Huaqing, he would definitely fight the Vajra general. Apologize, Ling Han said coldly, glaring at Qin Jingchu. Oh, Xianyuan, your new lover has a good temper. Qin Jingchu didn't care at all and continued to ridicule him, drawing hatred to himself. With a thought, Ling Han's blood qi surged, transforming into a huge silver monkey demon that pounced at Qin Jingchu. Qin Jingchu hadn't expected Ling Han to suddenly attack. Furthermore, the pressure of his aura seemed to disregard distance, arriving in an instant. Qin Jingchu was completely unprepared, and his face immediately paled. Baleful Qi Rush was an ability unique to the blood transformation realm. Although it wasn't very effective, it could cause one's limbs to go limp, and they might even collapse to the ground. Qin Jingchu was the Vajra general's son, and no matter how disdainful he was, he still had some strength. With his 5 transformation cultivation, how could he be so frightened by Ling Han's aura? Even so, his entire body was trembling, and he didn't dare meet Ling Han's eyes again. Oh, you actually know demon techniques? One of the cloaked figures suddenly said. Young Tiger Lord, the 3rd blood transformation is a blood qi beast. It's not strange for it to take the form of a demon, right? Another cloaked figure said. His status was probably a bit lower. The first cloaked figure shook his head. This isn't just an empty form. It still contains spirit. So you definitely didn't visualize a demon monkey, but rather cultivate a corresponding technique. Ling Han was shocked. This person's eyesight really wasn't simple. He hadn't intentionally condensed his blood qi into a beast, but had instead naturally taken the form of a demon monkey. That should have something to do with his demon monkey fist. It was a bit ingrained into his bones. Hand over the technique you're cultivating, the first cloaked man said calmly as he looked at Ling Han. Xianyuan Dinghua couldn't help but interrupt. Who do you think you are? You dare ask my brother to hand over his technique? How dare you? Aside from the young Tiger Lord, all the other cloaked figures stood up at the same time, pointing at Xianyuan Dinghua. Qin Jingchu's face was originally filled with anger after trembling, but now he revealed a cold smile. Since the esteemed guests were already at loggerheads with Xianyuan Dinghua, there was no need for him to interfere. All he had to do was watch the show. Who had Xianyuan Dinghua ever been afraid of? Aside from a few high-ranking princes, he wasn't afraid of anyone else. What was there to be afraid of? What? I can't tell you? Xianyuan Dinghua calmed down, sipping his wine as he spoke. Ignore him. He's just an idiot who doesn't know what's good for him. The young Tiger Lord waved his hand. He just stared at Ling Han. The more he thought back to that scene, the more he felt that the demon monkey's form was filled with intelligence. There was even a vicious and domineering air about it. It was definitely an ancient species. Yes, young Tiger Lord. The other cloaked figures solemnly acknowledged. The young Tiger Lord didn't say anything else. He just smiled at Ling Han. There was no need to rush. This person couldn't fly, so how could he possibly escape? End of chapter. Chapter 3342. Qin Jingchu's side stopped making a fuss. Xianyuan Dinghua also felt like he had punched nothing but air. He couldn't just charge up and fight, right? The two sides continued to watch the battle, and nothing happened for the time being. Ma Jiao and XNC's battle ended very quickly. They fought intensely and very quickly, their blood boiled as they clashed fiercely. In the end, it was XNC, the ever-victorious king, who won once again. Tish, this kind of trash dares to call himself undefeatable? A cloaked person sneered. There's nothing we can do about it. Xianbei country's overall strength is too weak. What kind of experts can they have? Another cloaked person said. A bunch of trash. What's there to talk about with them? Just send troops and make them submit, a third cloaked person said. As soon as these words came out, everyone in the arena was furious. Fuck, what the fuck are you guys talking about? Ling Han looked at Xianyuan Dinghua, and Xianyuan Dinghua looked back at him. So these cloaked people were actually envoys from the Yu dynasty. But they didn't know if this young tiger lord was that prince. What, are you guys still not convinced? A cloaked person stood up and looked around at the crowd. In our Yu dynasty, even a 3-year-old kid is 100 times stronger than those two trash. Yu dynasty, some people were confused. What kind of power was this? But some had heard of it before, and their expressions became serious. If this matter was blown out of proportion, it could become a serious diplomatic incident. Furthermore, the Yu dynasty's strength should be very terrifying. Any random prince they sent would be at the awakening realm. Immediately, many people sat down and chose to watch from the sidelines. Even if the sky collapsed, there would still be someone taller to support it. There was no need for them to stand out. Hurry up and admit your mistakes. Kneel down and admit your mistakes. You actually dare to boast shamelessly in the capital? Which countryside did you come from? Those who didn't know the details shouted. They were all rich second generations, and bullying outsiders was naturally a small matter. Xiao, a cloaked person, leaped out. Pung pung pung, punches and kicks were unleashed, and shadows were sent flying. The arrogant second generations were immediately sent flying. Fuck, they actually dared to attack? There were even more people who were angry. Few foreigners came to the imperial capital and actually dared to act violently. A bunch of trash. Is there anyone who can fight? The cloaked man looked around and finally jumped into the ring. Come on, if you're not convinced, come up and see how Brother Wolf will deal with you. Fuck, he's too arrogant. Immediately, someone couldn't help but jump onto the stage. Bam, however, before he could stabilize his feet, he was sent flying by a kick. He crashed heavily into the opposite wall and actually smashed a hole in the wall. Immediately, a large amount of blood flowed out. His entire body stopped moving, and it was unknown whether he was dead or alive. This scared some people, but it made even more people furious, and they immediately jumped onto the stage. Peng, he was also immediately sent flying, landing heavily on the ground. There were 5 wounds on his chest, which seemed to have been caused by sharp claws. Brother Wolf already said that none of you can fight, the Brother Wolf cloaked man said. Little Wolf is quite formidable. After all, he can be ranked in the top 20 of our Yu dynasty's younger generation. He alone is enough to sweep away all the warriors of the same level in this weak dynasty. Quickly, weaklings, is there no one else who can go up? Apart from young Tiger Master, the other cloaked people all shouted in an extremely arrogant manner. Everyone was furious. Firstly, that Brother Wolf was indeed very strong, and secondly, the imperial capital's geniuses were not prepared. How many here could fight? Quickly find someone. Right? We can't let them continue being so arrogant. Do they really think there's no one in the imperial capital? Many people immediately used their photon computers to communicate and call for friends. Brother Wolf laughed and said, "Don't you guys have someone who is known as a heaven-suppressing evildoer called Hong Tianliang? Let him come out and see how Brother Wolf will suppress him." That's Hong Tianbu. If Hong Tianbu makes a move, you will immediately be blasted to pieces, the crowd immediately retorted. Then let him make a move. Brother Wolf continued to provoke. Hong Tianbu is currently exploring an ancient site. He has no time for a small fry like you, someone said. What's there to talk about if he doesn't dare to show himself and fight Brother Wolf? Brother Wolf sneered. Oh right, there's also the second in Hong Tianbu, called Ling Han, right? Call him over and see how Brother Wolf will beat him until he calls for Grandpa. Xianyuan Dingwa could not help but look at Ling Han. The main character was right here. Be careful not to get beaten up immediately. Ling Han, on the other hand, was drinking leisurely. His anger had already risen, but it had not reached the point of explosion yet. I'll fight you. With a light whistle, a young man had already jumped onto the arena. I'm at the 5 changes of blood transfusion. I won't be bullying you. It's Man Hong Sheng. Someone immediately recognized him. The genius of the Man family. Although he has been trapped at the end of the 5 changes for many years, he has honed his powerful combat ability. If he goes all out, he won't be much weaker than Igu. This should be enough to defeat that arrogant guy. Brother Wolf, on the other hand, stretched out his hand and hooked his finger through the cloak, still extremely disdainful. Take this. Man Hong Xing directly boiled his blood qi, pushed his strength to the limit, and then charged towards Brother Wolf. Brother Wolf used his body to dodge. There was clearly only so much space in the arena, but he was able to move around and dodge all of Man Hong Xing's attacks. Everyone was shocked. This was too exaggerated. How could one avoid the explosion without boiling blood qi? But looking at the way Brother Wolf jumped around, why did he really look like a wolf? However, Man Hong Xing's strength was indeed extraordinary, coupled with the boiling blood qi. After a few dozen moves, he finally forced Brother Wolf into a corner, leaving Brother Wolf with only two choices: take it head-on, or jump off the arena. Humph, do you really think Brother Wolf is afraid of you? Brother Wolf roared, and a shocking scene appeared. His body actually expanded, causing his cloak to become somewhat distorted, and his whole body emitted a terrifying aura. Bang! Chapter 33-44. Brother Wolf's cloak exploded, revealing his true appearance. Everyone's jaws dropped. What did they see? Was this a person? If Brother Wolf was wearing a cloak, no one would say that he did not look human. But once he was uncloaked, the difference was huge, because he actually had the head of a wolf. Not only that, his entire body was furry, and his claws were sharp, emitting a cold glint. No wonder he was covered in a cloak, and those who were injured by him looked as if they had been slashed by sharp claws. This was the truth. What? It's actually a wolf. But how can a wolf speak? Also, why does he look like a person? Everyone cried out in alarm. Who would have thought that there would be a werewolf among the Yu Dynasty's emissaries? Ling Han was also surprised. You've become a demon. But although a demonic beast at the blood transformation realm had experienced a huge leap in life, it should not be able to stand up and speak like a human, right? He asked directly, what medicine did you eat to actually be able to speak? How did you know I ate the transformation fruit? The werewolf asked curiously. Ling Han smiled and said, I didn't know, you told me. The werewolf rubbed his furry head, his face filled with regret. So it turned out that he had let the cat out of the bag. Ling Han shook his head. Although you look like a human, your intelligence has not increased. Damn it, don't think that you've won. The werewolf roared. His body began to swell as if he had been pumped with air. His blood qi was boiling, entering an explosive state. It was really different. Ling Han did not boil his blood qi. He only had one chance to explode for 10 minutes, and this werewolf was obviously not worth it. He used the shuttle steps, and his speed soared to twice the speed of sound. It was not difficult for him to even dodge the attacks of the extreme bone realm. The speed of the two was extremely fast. In the blink of an eye, it was difficult for the naked eye to follow them. Everyone was dazzled as they watched. Previously, when the werewolf had not activated his blood qi, he was able to dodge Man Hongxing's attack in his explosive state. But now that he had unleashed his blood qi, he could not hit Man Hongxing at all. With such a comparison, it was obvious how powerful Man Hongxing was. Who is this masked man? He's way too ferocious, isn't he? Even Hong Tianliang was defeated by this person. The werewolf couldn't help but roar, Human, are you a mouse? Why do you only know how to run? Ling Han faintly smiled. He thought to himself, you haven't encountered the demonic rat in the hunting ground. If you still dare to say such words after meeting this demonic beast, then I will really respect you as a man. He didn't pay any attention to it. After putting some distance between them, he swung his fists repeatedly. Pooh, pew pew. The energy struck the werewolf's body, but not even a strand of hair fell. Foolish humans, after I unleash my power, not only will my strength and speed skyrocket, even my defense will be the same. How can your boiling blood qi compare to it? The werewolf said arrogantly. Everyone was indignant. This werewolf kept saying you humans, and you humans, at the drop of a hat. It was completely a big move to attract hatred. Big brother, hurry up and kill this demonic wolf. I'll treat you to a drink, someone called out to Ling Han. I'll treat you to a drink too. From now on, you are my Nyokai's friend. I've already introduced my sister to you. Ling Han glanced at the person who wanted to be his brother-in-law, and he couldn't help but shiver. Please, your face is fierce, and you're as sturdy as a large rock. It's really hard to imagine what your sister looks like." The dead werewolf waved his claws. Instantly, rays of black light were imbued with energy, and they swept toward Ling Han. An attack imbued with high-level energy was incomparably terrifying. However, what was the use of it if it couldn't hit its target? Ling Han snorted. "Only you know how to." He also used his telekinesis to connect with high-level energy, and his hands were immediately enveloped in a layer of golden energy. Hong, he punched out, and the golden energy imbued with energy exploded out. The werewolf clashed with his claws. Pung! The two energies collided, and the werewolf's hands instantly splattered with blood. Seeing this scene, even young Tiger Master revealed an expression of shock. This meant that the high-level energy that Ling Han had activated surpassed that of the werewolf. How was this possible? How could a mere human be so powerful? Hong Tianliang's mouth also opened wide, and he was extremely shocked. Ling Han had actually also grasped high-level energy, and was so awesome. This was the only pride he had, but now, his pride was once again crushed. How could he compare to Ling Han in any way? Ling Han let out a long howl, and he continued to punch out. Xiao, 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 the energy roared, and golden light interweaved. The werewolf's current strength surpassed Ling Han's, but his speed was still only slightly more than twice that of the speed of sound. This meant that Ling Han could easily dodge his attacks, but Ling Han's attacks, difficult. Some he could dodge, some he couldn't, and the golden energy imbued within was invincible, and could easily tear through his defenses. Thus, he could only take a beating without being able to retaliate. How humiliating was this? The werewolf roared angrily, but this did not change the fact that he was being pummeled. However, his tenacity was very strong, and he seemed to be a natural warrior. He would not fall until he was completely exhausted, until he bled to the last drop of blood. Even Ling Han couldn't help but feel some admiration for him. However, he showed no mercy, and defeated the werewolf as easily as crushing dry weeds and smashing rotten wood. Pung! The werewolf flew out of the arena and lay on the ground, unable to stand up again. This admiration was one thing, but their positions were different, and there was naturally no reason for Ling Han to go easy on him. "Good job. Beat this bastard to death. Who told you to be so unreasonable?" Everyone cheered. Previously, the werewolf had won so many battles that they couldn't even breathe. Now that Ling Han had defeated the werewolf, they naturally cheered and jumped for joy. "Little wolf." The cloaked figures all rushed out and carried the werewolf back. Seeing that he had only suffered some flesh wounds and had fainted from exhaustion, they immediately relaxed. "For you." A cloaked figure jumped onto the arena. "Take off your mask." He didn't give Ling Han any chance to argue, and with a wave of his hand, the cloak fell to the ground. This was still not a human. Although he looked similar, he had a goat's head and two small horns that emitted a cold metallic light. Was the Yu dynasty a dynasty formed by demons? Ling Han immediately shook his head. How could a dignified human, the spirit of all creatures, submit to a demon? If you can defeat me, then you can naturally take off my mask. "Let's fight with your own ability," he said indifferently. What an arrogant human. The goat was clearly very angry. His legs kicked off, and with a bang he exploded with astonishing speed. He was clearly in the blood transformation realm, so how could his speed reach twice the speed of sound? Ling Han clenched his fist and punched towards his opponent. Bang! The two of them collided, and both of them were forced back. In terms of strength, they were evenly matched. "Again!" roared the goat. His fist, no, his hoof, came smashing over, enveloped in a layer of gray energy. Chapter 33:45. Ling Han used the demon monkey fist, clashing with the goat. Bang bang bang. Ling Han used 20 stacks of strength. High-level energy coiled around his fists as he punched at the goat's hooves. Light flashed. This was a clash of primitive energy, as well as a clash of high-level energy. Every single move of his had no tricks up his sleeves. It was a clash of pure strength. Ling Han's attainments in the demon monkey fist had advanced a step further. With each punch, an illusory demon monkey appeared. It opened its mouth and inhaled, actually absorbing the goat's high-level energy. Even if demonic beasts were naturally thick-skinned and had an advantage in terms of physique, Ling Han's punches still caused its hooves to split open. Blood flowed out. Under the pain, the goat became even more berserk. It roared again, and its body immediately grew thicker. It exploded with power. Goat horn charge. With a fierce roar, its head tilted forward slightly, and then it charged at Ling Han. Bang! His legs exploded with power, and he exploded with shocking speed. 5 times faster. This demon goat's forte was speed. Even in human form, it still maintained this advantage. Otherwise, even if its blood chi surged, it wouldn't be able to reach twice the speed of sound at the blood transformation realm, let alone 5 times the speed of sound. Do you think I'm afraid of you? Ling Han coldly attacked the goat's head. Bang! Under the violent collision, a terrifying shockwave was formed, spreading in all directions. After traveling at more than twice the speed of sound, it was too terrifying. The tables, chairs, and wine bottles were all sent flying, crashing into the walls on both sides. Yang Jun has won. The Yu dynasty's people all looked over. If even Yang Jun couldn't deal with this human, then it would be a huge blow to them. He should have won. Yang Jun's charge is already incomparably terrifying. Adding on his explosive power, it's enough to threaten even a bone, let alone a trifling blood transformation realm cultivator. However, to be able to force Yang Jun to this point, this human isn't completely useless. He's qualified to be young Master Tiger's servant. The cloaked figures all nodded, as if being young Master Tiger's servant was an incomparably glorious thing. What? But when the dust dispersed, they noticed that Yang Jun had already fallen to the ground. His head was covered in blood, and one of his horns had been knocked away, causing the other to seem extremely lonely. Yang Jun had unleashed his full strength, yet he had lost a horn. Where's Ling Han? Although his palms were bleeding, he was standing steadily and didn't show any signs of collapsing. In other words, Ling Han also won the second battle. Are there any stronger ones? Ling Han asked indifferently as he looked at the Vietnamese dynasty's people. This sentence was very pretentious, but with the momentum of 2 consecutive victories, it made the blood of the surrounding people boil. Who said that the human race was weaker than the demon race? Look, this is proof. Young Tiger Lord and the others looked at each other in dismay. Although there were 5th transformation experts among them, all of them were only as strong as werewolves and goatmen. They were definitely not a match for Ling Han. One had to know that this human hadn't even used his blood chi boiling yet. I'll do it. A cloaked figure walked out and took off her cloak, revealing a beautiful and charming face. It was a woman. Her entire body had been covered in the cloak. Let alone her face, even her figure couldn't be seen. Naturally, it was impossible to tell her gender. But now that the cloak was taken off, everyone's eyes lit up. Not only was this woman shockingly beautiful, but she also had an enchanting figure. She seemed weak and frail, making one want to hug and protect her. A total of 20 layers of power stacked together as he crazily smashed towards the snake woman. This scene caused the people who remained to grit their teeth. Damn, the blood transformation realm could actually be this powerful? Not bad, not bad. Your strength really isn't bad. The snake woman nodded and revealed an expression of admiration. You have the qualifications to rely on young Tiger Lord. Damn, he was already so powerful, but he was still only fit to be a slave? You think you've been wronged? The snake woman laughed coldly. Young Tiger Lord's father is a great general of my Yu dynasty, a secret-seeking realm expert. Young Tiger Lord himself is also an engravement realm expert. You're merely at the blood transformation realm. To be able to follow such a master, what else can you ask for? Ling Han's heart shook. This young Tiger Lord was actually not the Yu dynasty prince who had come to visit this time. She was full of confidence in her own strength, and Ling Han had charged into the poisonous gas of his own accord. This was her home ground. She still did not dare to fight? She slashed out with her sword, and the sword light was dense. Ding. Ling Han slashed out with the broken sword, but the difference in strength was too great, and he was immediately shaken to the point of staggering. He immediately blasted out another punch, entwined with stone energy, and the demon monkey fist unfolded, blasting out a frequency attack with 30 stacks. Pew 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 pew. The Lamia attacked again and again, but Ling Han dispelled them all. The frequency attack was to fight the strong with the weak, and with the protection of stone energy, it gave Ling Han the qualification to resist the sharp weapon with his bare hands. The Lamia was horrified. How could her attacks completely collapse in front of Ling Han, unable to withstand a single blow? She hurriedly retreated. But Ling Han's speed was not slower than hers, and when the distance was already shortened, how could she get rid of him? Pung, it was just a punch, and the Lamia was sent flying. Chapter 33:48. Boom, the entire arena collapsed, filling the air with dust. But the experts immediately exploded and broke out of the ruins. Bang bang bang. But the experts immediately burst out and broke out of the ruins. Those who dared to stay here were at least blood-changing and extreme bone experts. Breaking out of the ruins was not a problem. But with the collapse of the arena, the entire street was also ruined. At least half of the street was affected. There were even cars that happened to pass by and unfortunately fell into the pit. Luckily, they only fell in and were not buried. Hu Sihai and the others naturally rushed out. They looked around, searching for Ling Han's whereabouts. But Ling Han seemed to have disappeared, and they couldn't find him no matter what. Of course, Ling Han's mask had fallen off in the process of breaking out, and everyone's clothes were similar. How could they recognize him at a glance? Where's that human? Come out! Hu Sihai shouted. The might of the engravement realm spread out, and he was extremely domineering. Defeating Ling Han was naturally to redeem the prestige of the demon race, but he still coveted the demon race's techniques on Ling Han. He had a feeling that if he could obtain it, he might become a great sage of the demon race in the future. So he had to find Ling Han and obtain the secret technique. Ling Han thought about it. Since the demon race didn't recognize him, then he might as well not show himself. He wasn't stupid. The engravement realm was not something he could match up to. He was confident, but not arrogant. He had crossed 2 realms. It would be abnormal if he could win. He had already done enough. He had defeated 4 demon race experts in a row, including 2 extreme bone experts. It was enough. Now this burden would be handed over to Yang Bai and Senior Tutor Hong. Even if he could really defeat Hu Sihai, would he still need to take action against another enlightening realm prince? Not coming out? Hu Sihai revealed a cold smile. Then I'll start killing until you come out. Everyone couldn't help but be angry and shocked. This demon was truly vicious and merciless. Moreover, this was the imperial capital. How dare you? Only Yang Bai and Senior Grand Tutor Hong could fight against it. If these 2 were not here, how could they block it? Moreover, there was a prince in the enlightening realm above the demon tiger. That was the most terrifying thing. You think I don't dare? Hu Sihai looked around and fixed his eyes on Xinyuan Dinghua. This was the person who had come with Ling Han. Since Ling Han was missing, he would be the first target. Xinyuan Dinghua's expression changed. I'm the son of Marshal Xinyuan. If you dare touch me, my father will definitely kill you. I'm dying of laughter. You're just in the engravement realm, the same realm as me. Hu Sihai laughed. Who can defeat me in the same realm? He said this confidently. Human, are you coming out or not? Hu Sihai asked again. I'll count to 3. If you don't come out, then prepare to collect your friend's corpse. 1. Don't come out. Xinyuan Dinghua shouted. He was the son of Marshal Xinyuan and had this bit of backbone. He glared at Hu Sihai. When the Elysian Emperor comes out, just wait to cry. 2. Hu Sihai was unmoved. It was just an enlightening realm. The 5th prince could suppress him by himself. Ling Han sighed. He naturally couldn't just watch as Xinyuan Dinghua was killed. He immediately jumped out and said, Little kitty, can't you be a little more promising? Ling Han. It's actually Ling Han. So that's Ling Han. As expected of the 2nd Hong Tian step, He even knows formations. It's a pity that he forcefully broke through during the big hunting competition. Without the treasure fruit of life to replenish his foundation, he'll at most reach the 5 changes of blood transformation. He dares to stand out against the demon race. Even if his cultivation drops to the illuminating pulse realm, I'll still respect him. I respect him too. There were some who looked down on Ling Han, while there were others who admired him greatly. They thought that Ling Han was a man since he had stepped forward just now, and that he had defeated the 4 elites of the demon race, so he was a man among men. Hu Sihai looked over and couldn't help sneering. So you're Ling Han? That's right, I'm your grandpa Ling. Ling Han didn't hold back at all. He didn't need to be polite to these beasts. How many moves can you block? Hu Sihai's face was full of disdain as he walked towards Ling Han step by step. Bang bang bang. Each step made a loud sound, as if it was knocking on people's hearts. He was purposely putting pressure on Ling Han. Ling Han took a deep breath. His current state couldn't be considered good. He had been poisoned and had used up his blood chi boil. How could he block an engravement realm expert? If you can block one of my moves, I'll spare your life, laughed Hu Sihai. He didn't care that this was the human race's capital and not the demon race's territory. If you can block one of my moves, I'll also spare your life. An extremely calm voice rang out, but it caused people's hearts to sway. Big brother! Hong Tianliang immediately cried out, filled with joy. Big brother Hong Tianliang's big brother Hong Tianbu. That heaven-suppressing monster. Even Hu Sihai revealed a solemn expression. He had lost count of how many times he had heard Hong Tianbu's name these past few days. Originally, he had thought that the standards of the human race were too low, and any one of them would be given the title of heaven-suppressing monster. But after seeing Ling Han's power, his opinion of Hong Tianbu had risen by several levels. Hong Tianbu, everyone was looking around. Quite a few people had only heard of his name, but they had never seen him before. A man in white walked over with large strides. The moonlight was like water, sprinkling down on his body, emitting a clear radiance. This seemed to be a handsome man that shouldn't exist in the mortal world. He was gentle and refined, without a hint of anger. It made people feel that he was ethereal, as if he was floating in the air. Hong Tianbu, a heaven-suppressing monster, a genius in martial art, a genius in formations. He was rarely seen in 100 years, or even 1,000 years. Hong Tianbu, Hu Sihai looked over, and his gaze slightly trembled. A person's reputation was like a tree's shadow. Hong Tianbu was currently like the sun in the sky, and Hu Sihai had no choice but to treat him with respect. Moreover, he had a strong feeling that this man walking over was incomparably terrifying. Even he had a kind of chill that he didn't want to face. Hiss, he hadn't even made a move, but just walking over already had such power. Just how strong was this Hong Tianbu? A mere demon race dares to challenge the orthodox human race? Hong Tianbu said slowly. These words instantly ignited everyone's emotions. Venting, it was really too venting, and too morale was boosted. Hu Sihai instantly flew into a rage. It was one thing for him to be afraid of Hong Tianbu, but now it involved the battle between the human race and the demon race. He definitely couldn't show any weakness. Hong Tianbu, your tone is too arrogant. You don't even know how many powerful geniuses my demon race has, he said coldly. You are basically nothing. Chapter 33:49. Boom. Hong Tianbu made his move and pressed his palm over from afar. A terrifying force took shape and slammed towards Hu Sihai like a mountain. Hu Sihai sneered. At this time, he naturally could not be a coward and responded with his palm. He was also very good. His palm actually turned into the shape of a tiger, roaring as it moved. The two forces collided, and the fierce tiger was instantly shattered. Hong Tianbu's force pressed over with great momentum, causing Hu Sihai's expression to change greatly. He quickly leaped and dodged. This was the benefit of releasing force. If he could not win, he still had the opportunity to escape. But in close combat, there was no buffer. Hu Sihai's expression changed greatly and he cried out, "How can your strength be so strong?" He was a four-vein expert after all. To be able to suppress him like this, it was definitely not as simple as a 5-vein expert. It was an enlightening realm expert. Enlightening realm. He probed. Hong Tianbu smiled faintly and said, I am the same as you, also in the engravement realm. As for me, I am a 3-vein expert. Hu Sihai almost spat out a mouthful of blood. Your realm is the same as mine. No, you are a small realm weaker, but you completely suppressed me. Is there still justice in this world? One must know that he was not an ordinary demonic beast. He had a trace of the ancient demonic tiger's bloodline and boasted that he was invincible in the same realm. But now he was defeated by someone stronger than him, and this opponent was a human. How was this possible? When did the human race become so strong? It was not only the demonic beasts who were shocked. The others were also shocked to the point that their scalps went numb. Hong Tianbu had actually advanced into the engravement realm and was a 3-vein expert. For a genius like him, it was as easy as drinking water for him to challenge someone of a higher realm. This meant that his battle strength should have reached the enlightening realm. The enlightening realm, the same battle strength as His Majesty the Sacred Emperor. There were many people who thought this way. After all, only a few people had seen the scene of Qin Fengyan's might. Even Ling Han's heart skipped a beat. He did not expect Hong Tianbu's improvement to be so shocking. One had to know that Hong Tianbu was only 23 now. Oh, after the new year, he would be 24 years old. A 24-year-old 3-vein martial artist. Even back when martial art had just begun to flourish and treasured fruits had appeared on a large scale, was there anyone who could attain 3-vein levels so quickly? This guy had been exploring ancient ruins all this time. It seemed like he had obtained a lot of rewards, which allowed him to improve so quickly. 3 veins? Hu Sihai murmured. His eyes gradually became firm. All right, let me test out the number 1 genius of the human race. Xiao, he pounced forward. So fast. Ling Han only felt that his eyes were blurred, and he almost couldn't catch Hu Sihai's trace. This was almost 4 times the speed of sound. Logically speaking, the engravement realm should be 3 times the speed of sound, but he had forcibly raised it by a level. Even Ling Han was like this, let alone the others. They only felt a blur in front of them, and they had already lost the trace of Hu Sihai. However, Hong Tianbu did not care at all. He only stretched out his hand and pressed down. Pang! Hu Sihai was sent flying, and a mouthful of blood spurted out from his mouth. Then he heavily fell to the ground, his limbs twitching, and he was actually unable to immediately get up. So powerful. If you can block one of my moves, I won't take your life, Hong Tianbu said indifferently. I just happen to be lacking a mount by my side. You can come with me. The people of the Yu dynasty were all enraged. They, the demon race, were such noble existences, and a puny human actually dared to make them mounts? They were simply courting death. But which one of them was Hong Tianbu's opponent? Yang, bring him back. Hong Tianbu turned his head and said, yes. Hong Tianliang immediately ran towards Hu Sihai. Although he had always set this elder brother as his goal to surpass, and he also hated living under this shadow, when he really saw Hong Tianbu, he was the same as the others, and could only submit and revere. This man was like a god, and the others could only coldly obey him. You dare! Sheepman and the others hurriedly went to block him, but when Hong Tianbu's palm brushed past them, they could only be sent flying. The might of Hong Tianbu was unstoppable. Hong Tianliang grabbed one of Hu Sihai's wrists and dragged him away. Hong Tianbu! Hong Tianbu! Hong Tianbu! Someone shouted Hong Tianbu's name, and after one person shouted, many more people quickly responded, shouting one after another. In the end, it turned into a vast ocean, and a fanatical emotion ignited everyone. Although Hong Tianbu only stopped for one battle, his limelight had completely overshadowed Ling Han. Speaking of the ability to fight on the same level, Ling Han had first defeated 2 blood-changing experts, and then 2 extreme bone experts. He had already done his best, and was even more outstanding than Hong Tianbu. But who asked Hong Tianbu to defeat the boss of the other party? Hong Tianbu only smiled indifferently. His gaze swept across, and stopped on Ling Han. But it was only for an instant, and he shifted his gaze away, as if he didn't care about Ling Han at all. This was a kind of contempt, and also a kind of confidence. You're second in Hong Tianbu? Hee, you don't even have the qualifications to let me take a second look. Ling Han didn't get angry. He had seen many people like this in the Yuan world, but he had caught up to and surpassed all of them, and all of them had become stepping stones on his path to becoming strong. He believed that Hong Tianbu would not be an exception. Of course, this gaze still had some use, and that was to make Ling Han's fighting spirit even stronger. There was no meaning in stepping on a spoiled brat. Only a genius like Hong Tianbu would make Ling Han feel a sense of satisfaction after surpassing him. Hong Tianbu withdrew his gaze and turned to leave, his hands behind his back, his white clothes fluttering, and he looked extremely carefree. Hong Tianbu is still so monstrous. Xianyuan Dingwa walked over and sighed. He had just stepped into the extreme bone realm, and could already be called an expert. But compared to Hong Tianbu, he was only 24 years old, but he could even easily defeat an engravement realm. Just how far was the difference between them? Everyone thought he was still in the three-bone realm, but he silently advanced into the three-vein realm. With his monstrous talent, even Grand Tutor Hong and the Council Elder are no match for him, Xianyuan Dingwa said. Fully deserving of the Empire's number 2 expert. Ling Han smiled and patted Xianyuan Dingwa's shoulder. Work hard, work hard. It's not impossible to surpass him in the future. Xianyuan Dingwa smiled bitterly. How could he surpass such a monster? But he still smiled and said, "Thank you." "What are you thanking me for?" "Thank you for standing up for me. Otherwise, that demon tiger might really have killed me," Xianyuan Dingwa said solemnly. "Don't say it like you're my wife." Ling Han bared his teeth. Hee, are you saying that you want me to repay you with my body? Get lost. The underground arena had already collapsed, and Ling Han naturally couldn't fight anymore. He could only return to the academy. But fighting 4 matches in a row was enough for today. After returning to the academy, the first thing Ling Han did was naturally to expel the poison. Chapter 3350. Ling Han consumed the 100 transformation pill while circulating his qi to dispel the poison, spending 2 days to expel it from his body. The conflict that happened the night before had already become a hot topic in the capital. Only now did everyone realize that the Yu dynasty was actually so powerful. A prince was already at the Enlightenment realm, and a random envoy was at the Engravement realm. Before this, most people thought that the Yu dynasty was here to pledge allegiance, but after the battle the day before yesterday, everyone realized that this Yu dynasty was a wolf with wild ambitions. They were not here to pledge allegiance or even form an alliance, but to make Xianbei state submit. Even a prince could rival their holy emperor. He thought to himself, if the Yu dynasty sent troops to attack, would Xianbei state be able to stop them? Those were all demonic beasts. Even though they had taken human form, their nature would not change. Who didn't know that demonic beasts were cruel and loved to eat human flesh? If Xianbei state really became a paradise for demonic beasts, then everyone would become their food. Fortunately, Hong Tianbu stood out and defeated that young tiger lord in one strike, boosting Xianbei state's reputation. Ling Han was also brought up, but under Hong Tianbu's brilliance, he was naturally overshadowed. The prince of the Yu dynasty quickly responded and arranged a battle with Hong Tianbu at the royal hunting grounds. Without the royal's permission, who would dare to go there? Now that the prince of the Yu dynasty arranged a battle there, it was clear that he was provoking Xianbei state. This caused great anger in the imperial court. They all wrote to Yang Bai, saying that even if they had to fight to the death, they could not allow the demonic beasts to act so presumptuously. However, Grand Tutor Hong urgently visited Yang Bai, and very quickly, the Grand Elder made a decision and agreed to the battle. Hong Tianbu also responded with one word, battle. The entire capital was in an uproar. Now everyone knew that the demonic prince was at the Enlightenment realm, but Hong Tianbu was only at the Engravement realm. How could they fight? Wasn't it certain that they would lose? But both the imperial court and Hong Tianbu seemed to be full of confidence in this battle. Otherwise, why would they agree to the battle? Could it be that they would lose to a demonic beast in front of the entire capital? The date of the battle was set for tomorrow. There was no need for anyone to announce it. Everyone decided to go watch the battle and personally see Hong Tianbu defeat the demonic prince. Ling Han naturally wanted to go and take a look as well. He wanted to know exactly how strong the Hong Tian steps was. The next day, he set off with the little maid. He originally wanted to take a taxi, but there was not a single car on the road today. Helpless, he could only walk with the little maid. Fortunately, they had set out early. When they arrived at the hunting grounds, it was still not the time for the appointed battle. Looking at the cars parked at the entrance, Ling Han finally understood why he couldn't get a car. All the drivers came here to watch the battle. They had no intention of doing business at all. If the driver is out of business, what about everyone else? Today, the guards allowed everyone to enter, and on the square, there was a dense mass of people already standing there. Ling Han believed that the battle between Hong Tianbu and the demon race prince would definitely not take place here, and would definitely take place deep in the mountains, so even if he found a good location here, it would be useless. He continued to advance with summoned snow and arrived at the top of the mountain. Looking down from a high vantage point, the view was excellent. There were many people who had the same idea as him, such as Xianyuan Dinghua, Qin Xingho, and so on. What was so great about this brat that Xianyuan Dinghua actually held him in such high regard? Right at that moment, she saw a middle-aged man walking in their direction. His gait was majestic and full of dominance. Seventh Prince. Your Highness. Xianyuan Dinghua and Yin Xiujing hurriedly cupped their fists and saluted that person. This was Chen Fengyan's seventh son, Chen Taiqing. Chen Taiqing raised his hand. The few princes who were ranked at the top had all inherited the powerful bloodline of the current Saint Emperor. It was unknown how powerful they were, but their auras were extremely powerful, causing people to feel reverence at first sight. Ling Han also cupped his fists and said, "Your Highness." Chen Taiqing sized up Ling Han with a smile and said, "When I paid my respects to Emperor Father a few days ago, I heard Emperor Father mention you." His words were filled with admiration. Yin Xiujing was even more shocked. Even the Saint Emperor would mention Ling Han in front of his son? My goodness, what did this guy do? Ling Han smiled and said, "Your Highness is overpraising me." Ha, excessive modesty is arrogance. How could this prince dare to speak nonsense about Emperor Father? Chen Taiqing laughed loudly. He paused for a moment and said, "Ling Han, this prince is currently lacking manpower. Are you willing to work for this prince?" End of chapter. Chapter 3352. Ling Han had always felt that Feng Ruoxian was only clever. Otherwise, she would definitely not have fallen out with him. As Feng Zixing's daughter, she should have known that Ling Han was also talented in alchemy. Breaking off relations with Ling Han like this would not only not benefit her in the slightest, but would instead be greatly disadvantageous. It was the same now. On the surface, the demonic race was incomparably powerful. The prince that came was at the Enlightenment realm, and could stand shoulder to shoulder with the Saint Emperor. But Feng Ruoxian had been present when the demonic rats had rampaged, and she had personally seen Qin Fengyan's power. Now, she still publicly allied with the demonic race. This was too stupid. Perhaps in Feng Ruoxian's eyes, the prince of the demonic race was stronger than Qin Fengyan's son, so the emperor of the demonic race was also stronger than Qin Fengyan. Perhaps Feng Ruoxian was not satisfied with hooking up with a prince like Qin Jingye, who obviously could not inherit the throne. But she could not hook up with an old prince like Chen Taiqing, so the new prince of the demonic race was her best target. Ling Han did not bother to guess the reason. After all, Feng Ruoxian was the one who had walked the right path, so what did it have to do with him? Kneel when you see the fifth prince. A minotaur stood out from the demonic race. He had two huge horns on his head that formed an exaggerated arc. He held a long spear in his hand, and he pointed it at the people on the mountain, giving off a terrifying aura. This was an engravement realm demonic beast. The demonic race was indeed full of talents, but the envoys following a prince were all of the younger generation, and yet they were all at the engravement realm or enlightenment realm. How many engravement realm cultivators were there in the imperial capital? Hee hee, you're quite bold, to actually dare make us kneel. The third prince, Chen Wenhua, smiled faintly. Hong, he also released his own aura and immediately resisted the Minotaur's aura. Old bull. The demonic prince, Ho Qianhua, called out softly. The Minotaur immediately retreated, incomparably respectful. Ho Qianhua's gaze swept over and he said, "Is Hong Tianbu here?" No one answered. He was only a demonic prince, and now that the two empires were on the verge of war, who would answer him? "Your Highness, they shouldn't have arrived yet." Xiu, a large bird descended from the sky. It was a birdman. Wasn't it Ing Zhangkong? Ho Qianhua snorted. This Hong Tian Steps was even more arrogant than him. He didn't flare up and instead calmly said, "Since Hong Tianbu hasn't arrived yet, then let's settle another matter first." He paused for a moment, then continued, "Where's Ling Han? Get out here for this prince." Ling Han was taken aback. Why am I being watched again? His aggro halo was too awesome. They hadn't even met face to face. "Your Highness, he is Ling Han." Lamia pointed at Ling Han. Ho Qianhua looked over and said coldly, "You actually dare to steal my demon race's techniques? Hand it over." How dare you be so arrogant in my empire?" The sixth prince, Chen Wenbin, said indifferently. Even though his opponent was in the enlightening realm, he was not afraid at all. "You're just a barbarian. How dare you act so viciously?" Seventh Prince Chen Taiqing said disdainfully. From the aura of these three princes, they truly deserve to be Qin Fengyan's sons. How domineering! Feng Ruoxian, as an earl of our empire, what's the meaning of mixing around with the demon race? Chen Wenhua looked at Feng Ruoxian, his tone suddenly harsh. Feng Ruoxian's aura was instantly snatched away. She felt her body go limp, and she almost fell to the ground. Ho Qianhua snorted and stood in front of Feng Ruoxian, saying, shouting at a woman, "Is this the prestige of your human race?" Chen Wenhua stared at Ho Qianhua for a moment before saying, "If not for the fact that you still want to fight Hong Tianbu, I would have immediately suppressed you. Do you believe me?" Hiss, how domineering. But Chen Wenhua was only in the engravement realm. How could he be Ho Qianhua's opponent? Ho Qianhua laughed loudly. The human race doesn't have any other abilities, but their ability to brag makes this prince feel inferior. No matter what, the demon race can't compare to the human race. A voice rang out, and a figure slowly walked up the mountain. His white clothes fluttered in the wind, and he looked like an immortal. Hong Tianbu, when did he arrive? Ho Qianhua immediately looked over, frowned, and said, "Hong Tianbu." "That's right." Hong Tianbu nodded. "Fine, this prince will first suppress you, then go and suppress those who are unconvinced," Ho Qianhua said. He stared at Hong Tianbu and said, "Where's Hu Sihai?" Hong Tianbu smiled. "I'm very satisfied with this mount." Ho Qianhua was instantly enraged, and the other demons also revealed expressions of anger. That was the fourth son of their great general Hu, and now he had been captured to be a mount. How could they not be angry? Good. Ho Qianhua was extremely angry, but he calmed down instead. He said coldly, "I originally thought that you had some talent, and wanted to take you in as a subordinate. But now, it looks like it's better to kill you." Ping, the demon race prince charged out. His two legs bounced off the ground, his speed astonishing. 4 times the speed of sound. No, it wasn't just 4 times the speed of sound, but 4. 5 times, or even 4. 7 times. His speed was too fast, and he seemed to have turned into a stream of light. Only after he had charged past did a terrifying sonic boom resound, and a powerful shockwave rose up. Hong Tianbu jumped up and left the mountain. There were too many people here, and he couldn't move freely. Boom. The two of them engaged in an intense battle with punches and palm strikes. They were all direct confrontations, and there was no room for tricks. After watching a few moves, Ling Han couldn't help but admit that Hong Tianbu was really powerful. He was only a 3-vein cultivator, but he could match an enlightening realm cultivator. It was like a legend. The demons were also completely speechless. They looked down on humans in every way, but first there was Ling Han, who had defied his cultivation level to win, and now there was Hong Tianbu, who could also defy his cultivation level to fight their prince. Humans were weak? What kind of joke was that? It's just so, Hong Tianbu said calmly. I can defeat you within 100 moves. Ho Qianhua was so angry that his hair stood on end. He was a mid-stage enlightening realm cultivator, so how could a three-vein cultivator humiliate him? He roared and used a fist technique, and his battle strength instantly skyrocketed. Hong Tianbu was still calm, his white robes fluttering in the wind, and he looked extremely agile. However, his palm technique was extremely domineering, and it turned into a giant axe that could split the heavens and the earth. Ling Han tried his best to capture it, and he saw that Hong Tianbu's palm was enveloped in a layer of golden energy. It was this indestructible layer of energy that gave Ho Qianhua great pressure. The power of this palm technique was too great, and when it was used to the extreme, a giant shadow actually appeared behind Hong Tianbu. It was a golden-bodied Buddha dressed in a kasaya. As Hong Tianbu pressed his palm forward, the Buddha also pushed out a palm, and it descended from the sky, filling the sky with golden light. This phenomenon was too shocking. In just a few moves, Ho Qianhua's body was already bleeding, and he looked extremely wretched. Chapter 33:53. Everyone was so shocked that their scalps went numb. An awakening realm cultivator had been defeated just like that. Hong Tianbu was too strong, too nature-defying. He was worthy of being called the heaven-suppressing monster. Bang! Hong Tianbu struck out with his palm, and Ho Qianhua was sent flying. He crashed through countless trees and arrived at the top of the mountain. With a thud, he fell in front of the beasts. The demon clansmen were silent, completely speechless. There was no excuse for his defeat. What else could they say after losing to an engravement realm cultivator? Ho Qianhua wasn't too heavily injured. Beasts had thick skin and flesh, and his physique was especially tough. But a defeat was a defeat. He wasn't so thick-skinned as to charge up and fight again. I lost, he said through gritted teeth. Hearing this, the beasts all felt pain in their hearts. Their prince had lost to a human. That was too embarrassing. Feng Ruoxian's pretty face changed. She was astonishingly pale. This was far from what she had expected. In her opinion, it should be Monkey Qianhua who defeated Xianbeigua in an overwhelming manner, suppressing Xianbei country all by himself. After Xianbei nation surrendered, she could use her relationship with Ho Qianhua to live a better life. After all, her title of countess was just an empty title. She didn't have any real power. But now, Ho Qianhua couldn't even defeat an engravement realm cultivator like Hong Tianbu, let alone sweep Xianbei nation. Obviously, Ho Qianhua could only return to the Yu dynasty with his tail between his legs. What would she do then? If she stayed, she would definitely be despised by the masses. Oh, your father died to protect Hidden Tiger City, but you, as a daughter, actually colluded with the beasts. Who would look up to you? But wasn't she in such a hurry just to make use of the time difference? Otherwise, when everyone swarmed her, her value would be greatly reduced. Who would have thought, who would have thought, who would have thought? Naturally, no one sympathized with her. She had brought this upon herself. Let's go! Ho Qianhua roared and was the first to jump onto the warship. He didn't have the face to stay any longer. The beasts all boarded the warship, while Feng Ruoxian felt extremely awkward. Should she go or not? The spaceship slowly rose into the air and flew into the distance. It did not return to the imperial capital, but left Xianbei country. In the end, Feng Ruoxian didn't follow along. If she, a human, went to the demonic beast's territory alone, what good would the outcome be? No one gave her a second glance. This woman was already finished. Hong Tian walked back to the top of the mountain. Immediately, many people looked at him in awe. This was an enlightening realm cultivator, stronger than Senior Grand Tutor Hong and Yang Bai. At the very least, he could be called the second strongest cultivator in Xianbei country. Congratulations! Mighty! Raise the prestige of our nation. Domineering! Everyone praised him one after another. Now, no matter how exaggerated the words were, no one would find it disgusting. Hong Tianbu was indifferent. He looked at Ling Han and said, "You seem to owe the Hong family something." Ling Han's expression was equally indifferent. Why don't I have any impression of it? It's the gourd on your waist. Hong Tianbu said, no one can owe my Hong family anything, not you, not anyone. Ling Han laughed. This is the first time I've seen someone talk about robbery so righteously. Hong Tianbu didn't mind. He took large strides towards Ling Han. He had just defeated the demon race prince. If anyone stood in his way, he would kill them. If Buddha stood in his way, he would kill Buddha. Who dared to stop him? But someone really did stand out. The seventh prince, Chen Taiqing. Hong Tianbu, you've gone too far. He said indifferently. Seventh prince. Hong Tianbu cupped his hands in greeting. Please step aside. I've been hearing your name for the past few years. You seem to be above my father. Chen Taiqing said indifferently. Hong Tianbu shook his head. I don't dare to stand shoulder to shoulder with His Majesty. Oh, so you're the first person below my father? Chen Taiqing followed up. This was a double-edged sword. If Hong Tianbu answered affirmatively, that would be challenging all the strong people in Xianbei country. Aside from the Saint Emperor, I'm the strongest. But if Hong Tianbu was a little more humble, then the reputation he had just built up would be greatly reduced. Hong Tianbu looked at Chen Taiqing a few more times before saying leisurely, aside from His Majesty, I really haven't found anyone who can match up to me. Is he really dared to say that? Chen Wenhua and Chen Wenbin both smiled. They looked friendly, but their arrogance had been aroused. Chen Taiqing laughed heartily and said, then allow this king to experience it. Please. Hong Tianbu extended his hand. Chen Taiqing was very casual. He raised his palm and slapped towards Hong Tianbu. Whoosh, the wind from the palm whistled. The force was wrapped in a fiery red special energy. It solidified and burned fiercely. Seeing this scene, everyone was shocked. It was already shocking enough that the force of a palm turned into the size of a house. But it also burned fiercely. This was even more shocking. Hong Tianbu was also shocked. He raised his hand to block the attack. So your highness has long entered the enlightenment realm. Hiss, the seventh prince is actually in the enlightenment realm? I can't compare to big brother and second brother, Chen Taiqing said calmly. I only broke through 4 years ago. My talent is slow. Fuck, you've already entered the enlightenment realm, but you're still slow? Then the 4 marshals, Senior Tutor Hong, and the others are stupid. Surprise flashed across Chen Wenhua and Chen Wenbin's faces, as if they did not expect their 7th brother to have reached the enlightening state. Boom. The 2 great experts clashed, raising a mushroom-shaped energy that rose into the sky. This strike was actually on par with each other. What a powerful Hong Tianbu. Chen Taiqing nodded. The heaven-suppressing monster truly lives up to his name. His Highness is the one who has hidden his strength. Hong Tianbu smiled as he began to attack. Chen Taiqing counterattacked, not showing any weakness, nor was he at a disadvantage. But very quickly, Hong Tianbu used the ultimate move that had defeated Ho Tianhua. The Golden Buddha appeared again, surging with golden energy and slapping towards Chen Taiqing. Chen Taiqing's eyes suddenly lit up. Xiao, 2 beams of light shot out. Poof, poof, the Golden Buddha was instantly destroyed. Everyone was speechless. Hong Tianbu had used this move to defeat the demon prince, but Chen Taiqing had easily countered it. What did this mean? Chen Taiqing was stronger than the demon prince. Instantly, everyone became excited. Who said that the human race was weaker than the demon prince? Look, they were both princes, but Chen Taiqing was stronger. So it was obvious that the Saint Emperor was stronger than the demon emperor. Hong Tianbu didn't attack again. Instead, he nodded. So His Highness telekinesis has reached the 5-star level. 5-star telekinesis, Isn't telekinesis divided into elementary, intermediate, and advanced? Why is there a 5-star level? Chen Taiqing smiled. You're not bad yourself. You've reached the 4-star level. Hong Tianbu thought about it and said, on account of His Highness, I won't cause trouble for him today. With that, he turned and left. You're tuning in to the Passion Pages YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.